Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? Monday morning, the most optimal time for streaming and talking about Magic. At least this time we had a good weekend of Magic to talk about, and not just working on projects. We were being timely. I don't know if I need these glasses yet. My glasses are like, I need them just to look at the screen but I like don't need them generally. It's just because it makes my eyes tired. Makes my like forehead tense. We're just gonna wait for some people to come in, and then we'll kind of get going on things. But this weekend, I had the distinct pleasure of drafting a cube that I had been interested in drafting for a couple of years. But last time I hung out with the cube owner, who also lives in New York City, we drafted my cube instead of theirs. So I really wanted to try it, but here we are. I didn't draft it then, but I just drafted it yesterday, is what I'm trying to say. It's called the Devoid Cube, and let me pull it up on the screen here. The Devoid Cube, and if you want to take a look at the list, you can type in !cube. Yeah, and it'll come through like that. The Devoid Cube is from 2014. It started around 2014, 2015, I think. I believe he's been curating it for a long time. So it's a really... Oh, it also posts the current vintage cube. Nice. That's cool. Getting to know these Streamlabs CloudBot commands a little bit more. It's a really unique cube experience because it takes a lot of assumptions that you could normally apply to certain cards, being like it takes cards out of a vacuum of Magic. What am I trying to say? It makes you reevaluate certain cards based on a new context, which is that the entire cube is colorless, and you do not have access to basic lands that are not wastes unless you draft them. So the draft box is full of wastes. The cube has all the colored sources in it, and that includes basics and snow basics. Not that snow matters, but there's one snow and one regular basic in the cube, and you have to draft them if you want to play colored sources. And that there's other sources too. There's the bridges, there's the the pain lands and the storage lands. Basically sources that can tap for specifically colorless mana are in here. There's also the Horizon lands, although I don't believe they're all the Horizon lands. Yeah. There's just a number of them. Like there's not Horizon Canopy or whatever, but there's all the Modern Horizons 1-5. So what this does is this, and then, and there's also just like other lands. There's like the artifact lands, there's 5-color lands, there's other colorless sources like Blast Zone, Blink Moth Nexus, Mutavault, Urza Saga, Treasure Vault, things like that. So what this does is really interesting. It makes you really think about every card that you have to draft that's a color, and make sure that you have enough sources to cast it. And there's a really interesting tension that happens in the drafting, deck building, and gameplay experience that I really enjoy experiences that make me reevaluate cards and not just see them in their like kind of objectively powerful context, which is in like constructed Magic or whatever. This turns that a little bit sideways, and so you're like, what's a good example here? Like a card like Brutal Expulsion is a good example, right? Obviously this is in the cube because it is colorless, it is devoid. So this is one of the big overarching stipulation of the cube is that every single card has to be colorless. So there's a couple like things that he does not put in there, like Phyrexian mana cards, but nevertheless, the BFZ was a huge boon to this cube. So devoid. So Brutal Expulsion is 2 a blue and a red. So you do not have access to blue and red mana unless you draft it. So there are going to be circumstances where you take this card and you don't get enough sources to be able to play it. Or you get enough sources, barely enough, and then whether or not you draw them or at the right time becomes an issue. And so there's a real cost to putting cards in your deck that require colored mana. You can choose to ignore colored mana altogether, like I did. Like, I'm pretty sure. I'll go over my deck with you, just so you can see it. But you can ignore it, or you can lean into it, and you can prioritize the mana. So, like, naturally, this leads to a place where colored sources of mana, you can see them as being a higher pick than almost every other card in the cube. If you want to play, you know, any of these spells that cost colored mana or have activated abilities that cost colored mana, the most notable and overwhelmingly committed of them is Golos, which I don't know exactly how to read the layout of this cube. Creature. No. Oh, it's by casting cost. Okay. So where's Golos? Creature at 5. Here it is. So, Golos Tireless Pilgrim. Obviously, if you want to activate this card, you're going to need 5 colors of mana. So you're going, like, you can build a Golos deck. Like yesterday, my finals opponent, Zach Barish, also writer for Hipsters of the Coast, game designer, great mind, love talking to him all the time about games and Magic in particular. We met in the finals of this draft. He had drafted Golos Field of the Dead, 5 color. And his mana base only had 4 wastes in it. So he was prioritizing taking the basic lands and anything that produced color and the colored sources that were also creatures, like the mirrors. Where are they? Not Perilous Mirror, not Plague Mirror, not Mannequin or Milliken. Yeah, Copper Mirror, Iron Mirror, Lead Mirror, Silver Mirror, Gold Mirror. Like, those became pretty necessary pieces of his puzzle. But prioritizing all that mana allowed him to play all the colors and allowed him to be able to take these cards that cost colored mana, which is really, really cool. Like that he built his deck like in that way, prioritizing that, building a very controlling deck that was also knew its place in the metagame, because he was also prioritizing cards that were stopgaps against aggressive strategies. I drafted an aggressive deck, and he had some really good main deck cards against me. I'll tell you about how it went after this, in case you don't follow me on Twitter. I did announce whether or not I won that game. Whatever. Spoilers, I won the match. But it was really, really fun. The first game in particular was great. I'll go over all my matches with you. So this was a really fun thing to draft. Really, really fun cube that opened up a lot of space for like reevaluating cards, and that's always exciting to me. Oh, let me bring up something else too. Cards that you have to reevaluate. I saw this card in the draft, Sword of Fire and Ice. Really, it's like, you know, we normally think of this as an incredibly powerful piece of equipment, and it is, objectively, in a vacuum. Apply it to the Devoid Cube, where there's no blue and red creatures. There's maybe a couple, you know, Thought Harvester, Barrage Tyrant. No, actually, there are no colored creatures. These are all, you know, devoid creatures. So it doesn't actually grant any protection, which reduces the power of the card significantly. So I passed it, even though I was an aggressive deck that wanted cards that could augment power and toughness. And I did actually already have vehicles and equipment at that point. But I looked at this card and I was like, this card's great. But in this cube, it's just +2/+2 with a combat damage trigger. That's too high of an investment for me. I'm going to pass it. So like just changing the way that you think about cards like that is really cool. And I enjoyed having to reevaluate. I keep saying that because I really can't stress enough like how interesting that was. Interesting of an experience it was. So let's go look at my deck. This was my deck. I hope y'all can see it. Let me try something here. Make that a little bit bigger. So this was my deck. If y'all can't see it, just let me know. Was I muted? Oh no, was I muted? Hey Miles, yeah, before I start talking about that, I guess I'll just bring this up real quick. I'm going over the deck. Did you just join? Could you hear me? I realized I might have had my microphone muted. Anybody else in chat was like, could y'all hear me okay? Now I'm like panicking that I like said all that shit. Okay, you just joined. Alright, well, somebody in chat let me know. Oh, it is? Okay, I can adjust that. Okay, alright, cool. Good morning. How do I get, wait, get out of here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, this was my deck. Oh, it's okay, man. Don't worry, like, I mean, it was my first time drafting it, so I had a lot to say about it already. I was talking about it on stream before you got in. So I drafted... Basically, I went into this draft thinking that I just wanted to play with the card Arcbound Ravager. Now, if you'll notice, the card isn't in my deck because someone else first picked Arcbound Ravager, not me. But I just wanted to play an aggressive deck because I realized that there was not a lot of removal in the cube, and some of the removal was kind of clunky, so I wanted to play something aggressive, and I like playing aggressive decks, so it seemed like a fun choice for me. Hey, Crackshot! It seemed like a fun choice for me, but also like just a good choice if I wanted to like try and spike the draft. And spoilers, I did 3-0 the draft. So what did I first pick? I'm like looking at this, trying to remember. I think it was like I think it was honestly a card like Signal Pest or like Arcbound Slith or like something really cheap. It wasn't like Gingerbread or Hobagirp or anything. And it was like Flare Husk or Signal Pest or something like that. I just like Urza Saga. I actually got pack 2, but it was one of the best cards in the entire deck. Like no joke at all. And then so I like just started taking cheap cards, and ended up taking like a Ghost Fireblade and a Retrofitter Foundry early, and was just really happy with that as a direction. Ghost Fireblade just seems insane in this cube as like an aggressive payoff. And then pack 2 I got Urza Saga, and pack 3 I got Skull Clamp. And I never saw... I got Steel Overseer, which you can see in there in my 2-drop slot. It's the Invention. But I never saw Zabaz, thankfully, because it would have made my mana a little wonky. I probably would have tried to take more sources of colored sources. And I never saw Ravager. And it's because somebody first picked Arcbound Ravager, pack 1, pick 1, 2 people to my right. And then it was funny, like, in the middle of the draft, they were complaining that they were, like, going for an archetype and it wasn't working out. And I would just looked at them and I was like, this has got to be someone that's trying to play aggro. And I'm just like slamming all the 1-drops. I'm not even trying to let them wheel. Because I just know that, like, critical mass is a really important part of this deck, and I don't need... there's no removal in the cube, so I might as well just take the core of the deck, which are the cheap creatures, higher, and then I can get equipment or vehicles. Like I have Fleet Wheel Cruiser and Renegade Freighter in here. Yeah. So, you know, I managed to get cards like Blink Moth and Rishon Port. I got an Ancient Den, a Treasure Vault, which were all really important. The Treasure Vault, I was hoping, you know, if I got, like, Arcbound Ravager, that I could instant speed make a bunch of treasure tokens and sack them. I was hoping to do more, like, modular stuff, but obviously I did not get a lot of modular stuff. I also took, like, some early... Oh, like, in the sideboard, there's an Eldrazi Mimic and a Thought-Knot Seer. Oh, you know what? My first pick was Thought-Knot Seer. And I ended up not playing it, and I think that was a mistake, but I ended up not playing it because... 1, I wanted all artifact creatures because of Steel Overseer. And 2, and because of Glinthawk Idol. And 2, I wanted to play Juggernaut so fucking badly because I haven't played with Juggernaut since Dominaria. And before that, I haven't played Juggernaut since, like, it was in a core set. And I just, like, you know, it's a big part of me being an old Magic player to play Juggernaut, and I was like, I don't know how many chances I ever will get to play Juggernaut again, so I'm just gonna slam this into my deck, even though it's just like a 4-mana 5/3 that must attack. Like, it's not like a great card. Yeah, I'm old. Like, I'm older than I look, and I played Magic. I attacked the Juggernaut in 1994. Okay, deal with it. What is the card? The 3-drop on top. Oh, Blinding Soul Eater, which was one of my better cards. I'm going to talk about, like, the better cards in the deck, and then I'm going to go over the matchups. So Blinding Soul Eater, I think I took that early, pack 1, just because it's a removal spell to me in a cube without a lot of removal. And, you know, it is one of the only Phyrexian cards, but I knew I didn't need a colored source to play it. So, and if I was always going to be on the front foot, it just felt like a good pick. You meant the other one. Oh, Graven Abomination. Sorry, Crackshot. Card Graven Abomination. This is the card. It's a 3-mana 3/1 that whenever it attacks, exiles a card from a defending player's graveyard. It was totally filler to me. I just wanted a 3-drop because I was really, really light on 3-drops, and I had I was afraid about, like, crew costs and, like, curving out and stuff. And then I was like, well, if the attack trigger is relevant, like, I'll ask Daniel, the designer, about it afterward, but I didn't, like, there wasn't anything. There's like a lot of like graveyard interaction in the cube, but I didn't see a lot of like graveyardy kind of stuff. Maybe I didn't see it because it's not really like a heavy part of the environment, like graveyard interaction. However, it did come up in round 2, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's see. Was it round 1 or round 2? It was round 2 came up. Okay, so this was the deck. I was pretty happy with it. I was really, really sad to not get Mirror Enforcer, Sojourner's Companion, Arcbound Ravager, or Zabaz. Like, that was, that was like a heartbreaker for me. I did realize I passed Sojourner's Companion because I forgot what it looked like the art, and I was just like so like trying to like focus in on like getting my my critical mass together. Oh, hey Daniel. Graven Abomination was clueless part of trying to make processors happen. Turned out processors are fetch. Well, it ended up being like super duper relevant in one of my matches. So I'll go over that in a little bit. Okay, so that's what I was trying to get at, but you just spoiled it. Damn it. I did play against the designer of the cube in the draft, and we actually played twice yesterday. So anyway, let's go over my matches. First match, I play against Rachel. Rachel, I win the die roll. No, I lose the die roll. They play like a tap land, like a bridge, and I go and I just spit out my hand. Like I have an early Urza Saga and a Ghost Fireblade. My Urza Saga ends up making like 2 giant creatures, and then I killed them on turn 5. Like they played like land, Burnish Heart, land, die. So like I didn't know what the deck was trying to do. I just saw like Colored Sources and Burnished Heart, and then game 2, they just played a bunch of wastes, and I just played a bunch of creatures, and they didn't really get a chance to do much. So they just died like really quickly because they stumbled a little bit with their mana, and that this kind of deck is just gonna like capitalize on that. And then we're like, all right, let's just play another game because everyone else is just still playing. So you play this third game, and their deck actually started like, curving out and like playing to the board and stuff. So what happened was actually really cool, and it'll tie into one of my MVPs for my deck. So we both build out this really massive board where like I have Retrofitter Foundry going, making things. I have an Urza Saga that made 2 Constructs that were both like 11/11s, and then one got bounced by an Aether Spellbomb, so I only had 1. They had a couple of flying creatures. They played their Sword of Fire and Ice, which, spoilers, didn't do anything except make their creature bigger. And they had it just like we got into a big board stall, and it became about flyers, which is, it felt like a limited game in that respect, which was kind of cool. And I know that the designer, Daniel, who's in the chat, if anybody wants to say hi, please. I know that the designer mentioned to me, I think briefly, that like wanted it to play a little bit more like limited because there's like slower, clunky removal. Yeah, Istical is the designer of the Devoid Cube. So we got in this big board stall, and we were like jockeying for a position in the air. And I had this really cool play, which I told Dan about, which was they attacked with a Eldrazi Sky Spawner with a Sword of Fire and Ice on it. So it was a 4/3 flyer. And I got to make a Thopter token with my Retrofitter Foundry, which triggered Glinthawk Idol, which meant I had 3 power of flying in the air at instant speed. And I was able to block and trade, which was kind of cool. I like made the Glenhawk Idol on my opponent's turn, which is not the easiest thing to do. And it's not an intuitive part of its like normal play pattern. So that was kind of fun. Nevertheless, what happened was, so we're in this board stall, and then at some point the Monarch starts happening. Rachel can't get the Monarch back. I'm drawing a million cards. I think I had the Monarch for like 7 turns or 8 turns or something ridiculous. I finally find one of my outs, which was Key to the City. I put all my equipment on the Construct token. I play Key to the City. I make it unblockable, crack in and kill Rachel in 1 hit. So that was like my board stall breaker, which was just so sweet. Like I thought maybe I would have to like win in the air with Thopter tokens, which is going to take a long time and would give Rachel more outs. But instead, I drew my creature gets unblockable. Okay, so that was round 1. Now we shuffle up. Now I'm playing against the designer of the cube, Istical, Daniel. Work-life value. Follow him on Twitter. And so he's on a like just I think you're just on like a big mana. Like you had Ancient Tomb and you had like this like you were able to like put a bunch of power and toughness on the board. You had Karn and like Karn Scion of Urza. You had a way to get like Metalwork Colossus out really like through like cheating it out with some other card. If you could like tell me what card that was, it was a card I didn't know. Pac-Man Pick 1 Panharmonicon but didn't quite get for the ETBs. Oh. So you wanted to like blink stuff. Okay, so you had Displacer, but you took Panharmonicon. Which I never saw your Eldrazi Displacer, but I watched you play it in your 3rd match from afar. Yeah. So it was Aether Searcher. Hold on, let's pull that card up here. Let's pull that card up. Aether Searcher is a 7 mana construct that is a Draft Matters card. There is a Traxos in the cube, yes. And there's also Voltaic Servant and other ways to untap it, I believe. Well, there's obviously other ways to untap it, being it's a Historic Matters card, but there is the combo. It's exclamation point card, and then type in the name of the card. But Aether Searcher is a Draft Matters card, so there's Draft Matters cards in the cube. And so you draft it, and then the next card you draft, you reveal Aether Searcher, and then you reveal the next card you draft, and then everyone note the name of the card, and it goes both Aether Searcher and the card you name go in your deck, and then when Aether Searcher enters the battlefield, you get to put the card into play, or you can cast the card without paying its mana cost. So it's like Arcane Savant kind of, in a way. And so Daniel had tutored out Metalwork Colossus, which is just a gigantic Kaladesh creature that has a recursion clause on it. Everything is historic because they're all... Well, no, not everything. There's a lot of artifacts. There's also just a lot of devoid cards and colorless cards. So I think the overwhelming majority of cards are probably historic, yeah. But yes. Technically, you are correct. Everything is historic. So what happened in our games? Well, let's go back to the deck. Okay, so Graven Abomination. Let's go back to that. So this was like hilariously relevant in our match. The 3 mana 3/1. Because I I like just at one point attacked with it. I think I like had a +1/+1 counter or something on it, or like a Ghostfire Blade, and I like put a Skull Clamp on it because I wanted to like, yeah, Retrofitter, put Flyer. I was able to like put Retrofitter out, get a Thopter, and put Ghostfire Blade on it, and you didn't have an answer. That was game 1. Game 2, I had this creature with a ghost, I think like a counter or a Ghostfire Blade and a Skull Clamp on it, and I would like attacked to just, I wanted to get 2 cards out of it, so I like attacked and ate a card out of your graveyard, like it was like a Triskelion or something, or your tapper. What's it called? Rustic. And yo Tommy. So whatever, I do that. Abomination dies. I draw 2 cards. The game continues. Like, he blocks with it was Spell Shrivel? Okay. See, he remembers. He remembers a little better than I do, this game. So I exile a card from the graveyard, and then draw my 2 cards, and the game progresses. So we get to the end of the game. Thank you. We get to the end of the game, and Dan dies because in his hand is Emrakul, the Promised End, and doesn't have enough mana to cast it because I exiled like 1 or 2 cards from the graveyard, or like 1 card from the graveyard, and totally would have won the game otherwise. But the Graven Abomination exiling the card from the graveyard was relevant in that it kept him off casting his giant Eldrazi, which I just thought was like hilarious and just kind of random too. Like, who the hell would know? Like, I didn't obviously play the card knowing that it was ever going to do anything, but it just like ended up being like super relevant in the late game. So I ended up like, luckily, yeah, I was playing 4D chess. Excuse me. We live in 3D. No, you know what, Tommy? Normally I would laugh and take credit. I take no credit for that. That was just pure luck. Just circumstantial. So I had a great, it was a great game. It was actually just a good match. It was a lot like my games against Rachel were like very one-sided, but then we had a really good third game. Whereas like our games, like my games against Dan were like a lot tighter, which was really fun. I enjoy games like that where I have to play tight, because it scratches an itch for me. So then it's 2-0. Let's pull back the deck. And it's 2-0, and I have to play against Zach Barish in the finals, who's in the chat as Zenith GP. If you'd like to, yeah, it's you and me, buddy. In the finals, you know, definitely the person that if I was 2-0, I was going to expect to have to play in the finals, because Zach's a good player and a good deck builder. Yeah, post your deck to Twitter and I'll show it, because I'm sick of showing mine. Definitely a person that like is a good final boss, you know. Definitely somebody that like I lost a lot to when I came back to playing Magic, and like was playing a lot of limited very badly. Yeah, so Zach's gonna post his deck to Twitter, and we're gonna pull up Zach's deck. Let's see. Zenith, I think you're on Zenith GP. You are not. Compliments on the internet. What year is this? I don't understand, Tommy. Yeah, we're gonna pull it. We're gonna pull it up in just a sec. Wow, Zach's not hasn't posted in a little while. Let me know when you have it posted, and I'll pull up the thing. So Zach, you remember how, going back to when I was talking about the cube, I was talking about like how people could prioritize colored sources of mana, because for those of you who are coming in, also if you want to see the cube, Just type !cube and it'll pop up. Zach took the route of, we're going to prioritize taking the basic lands, all the lands. We're going to play all the colors. We're playing Golos. We're playing Field of the Dead. We're playing, like, the full inevitability endgame deck. And, you know, so he was on one end of the spectrum. I was on the other. I was the one-drop critical mass aggressive colorless deck. Zach, when you have that... Okay, here it is. Boom. There it is. Zach's deck was awesome. Done. Thank you. Yes. We got it. Okay. So, top of here is Sideboards. So, I think there was, like, a couple things that became relevant. Like, Ugin's Construct came in... Where's the Necro Skitter? Oh, you just played Necropede. You just played that main deck. Okay. Pre-board of... Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, you got to play the alpha, beta lands, right? Respect on the island choice. Yep. Yeah, so Zach also made the Galaxy Brain play of also building his deck to have stopgaps against aggressive decks. With cards like Stonecoil Serpent, Warping Whale, Spatial Contortion, Pyrite Spellbomb, Scalding Cauldron, Necropede, Matter Reshaper. Where I would say is like, and also like Disc, Nevinyrral's Disc would be in there too. And I guess to an extent Precursor Golem, because it just puts a ton of power and toughness on the battlefield. And Mutavault. Which, you know, we could talk about how good Mutavault is also. Because it is produces colorless mana and becomes a creature. So it is almost entirely strictly better than a Waste in every way. So that was pretty cool to see cards like Mishra's Factory and Mutavault just be like strict upgrades to a basic, except for like fetching purposes. But like the opportunity cost is basically nothing to put them in your deck. So yeah, so Zach's deck was really cool and is definitely like, you know, I knew, like, knowing Zach's preferences, because actually Zach was passing to me in the draft. So like knowing how Zach likes to draft, which is he tends to prioritize or he tends to like these kinds of decks in limited and in cube, like these like inevitability decks and these like multicolor, you know, slower decks, controlling decks. I knew that like I probably wanted to draft aggro, but then when he was sitting to my right, I was like, okay, I'm definitely probably going to draft aggro because he's just going to take all the lands. He's going to take like the late game stuff, and I'll just take the aggro stuff, and like we're going to cooperate. If I lose to Ruination, I'm a happy man. That's how I draft cube. What is Ruination? How come I don't remember this card? You know what, Zach? These are the same picture, aren't they? Aren't they? Essentially. Not technically, but essentially. No, there were basics. There were some wastes. There were 4 wastes. And there were a lot of... There's like these 4 basic lands. So... We had, and maybe you could chime in on this too, Zach, because I don't fully remember, like, because the game was so intense and had so much happened so quickly. Like, it was one of the coolest games of Cube I've played in, like, a long time, which is, like a pretty, like, weird thing to just point to this one game. Maybe not even match, but the whole match was actually great. But the first game was just completely insane. Like, I had a really powerful early start, and Zach had a hand that had Warping Whale and Spatial Contortion for 2 of my threats, one of which was modular, so Warping Whaling my modular threat gave him additional value, and then followed up with Disc, blew the Disc, killing 3 of my permanents, and I was still able to keep unloading threats. And how did I win? Like, did I just win that game with like Ghostfire Blade on like creatures? Did I win with Saga? I don't actually remember like exactly what I used to win, but like I managed to like power through a board wipe and 2 removal spells in a game where I'm just playing like a bunch of 1-drops and like equipment. I don't remember like that wasn't game 1 though, was it? I thought that was game 3. That was game 3. Freighter Key to the City. All of this was game 1. Board wipe was Navineral's Disc. He also had Oblivion Stone too, but there also was Engineered Explosives, which Dan had in his sideboard. So I already had to play. He had EE and another, I think EE and another board wipe. Oh, and also Zach had Blast Zone as one of his lands. Yeah, so Dan had EE and Powder Keg, and then Zach had Blast Zone in addition to Oblivion Stone and Navineral's Disc. And I'm the board-centric critical mass aggro deck. And somehow I was... Well, I don't know. I'm not going to say somehow I was able to power through it. I had some really good tools to power through it, but I just, like, wasn't expecting to, like, keep applying pressure in the face of all of this shit. Wow, I can't believe that the Renegade... So, like, okay, so I killed Zach with a Jousting Dummy, crewing a Renegade Freighter, and then using Key to the City to attack, like, to just Lava Axe him a couple times. Derek's turn 2, I got super excited to dump his hand. I played Skull Clamp and Frogmite. Oh, yeah. And then you killed the creature in response, so I couldn't play my Frogmite. Yeah, I just played really fast because I didn't think you had removal spells. So there's already, like, a lot of, like, game happening on turn 2. Let me pull up my deck, too. Yeah, there's the fact that, like, and, like, yeah, you deployed Disc, and then I was faced with, like, yeah, you killed 2 of my creatures, and then I played, like, 3 more, and I had Skull Clamp, and then you played Navineral's Disc after playing the 2 removal spells on turn 4. And then I was like, well, I can either draw 6 cards with Skull Clamp and just like trade my board in for 6 cards, or I can just keep pressure on him and force them to blow the disc. And what I concluded was, like, if I just eat my board to draw 6 cards, Zach's not going to blow the fucking disc. Like, he'll blow the disc the next turn, but he can just keep that as an insurance policy against me. I would have a really hard time extending into the disc, especially when I, Skull Clamp was going to, like, kind of get me there, but, like, there will be, like, a time where I, like, play a couple creatures, you play, like, a creature, and then, like, I try to Skull Clamp and you blow everything up in response, and I would just be so far behind on tempo that, like, I wouldn't be like enacting my deck's game plan. So I chose to just, like, force him to blow up the disc with the board that existed, so that when, like, one of my 3 creatures died and I drew 2 cards off Skull Clamp, I could then, keep deploying threats. And that decision helped me win the game because I got him too low. I got him too low to, like, stabilize the board at the end of the game. Yeah, it was really, really cool. And then game 2, you ground me out. in Game 3... That's right. Game 3 was not that interesting. Oh yeah, there was also the final turn where you were trying to do math about like you had drawn Pirate Spellbomb or something, and you were like trying to see if you could get me to chump block, and I was like trying to do the math of like how much power and toughness you had on the board and how likely it was that I would have to chump block with my Blink Month Nexus. And I didn't know, like, you said that you didn't have the mana to like use Spellbomb, but like I thought you had like a Mirror and a Carplution Forest. So I was like, I wanted to like talk about that more with you like after the end of the day, because we didn't like get to fully, because I wanted to like lay out, like you scooped up your cards and said that was it because you were short of mana, and I was just like, okay, it was short of mana. But then I wish we like laid it all out so we could just see if you could play through that turn in a way that made me like lose the game or whatever. So I was really curious to see what your hand was. You were 1 mana off stabilizing. You had to force a chump block and then dump my hand to draw exactly a mana removal spell, but I didn't have the red source of Pirate Spellbomb. Oh, it was Fungal Reaches. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, you dumped your hand, Seagate Wreckage, but then you had a Mirror and a land. And I thought the land was a Carplution Forest, but it was Fungal Reaches, which totally makes all the sense in the world. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you did not cast... Yeah. It was insane, guy. Like, everyone... Because, like, we were both like sweeping. So like we both took a game off each other for like the first time in the draft, which was like really fun. And I just wish the last game was a little more interesting. Yeah. You were off by 1 mana. So like Zach was off by a mana. Dan was off by like a mana to cast Emrakul also. Like these games came down to like really, really, really tiny edges, and like trying to like solve these problems was so fun. And I was just very, very happy that the cube was as interesting to draft and see, and like I don't know if you were here, Zach, when I was talking about this, but like I just love how it made me reevaluate so many cards that I would, you know, in a vacuum say are, you know, good or bad or whatever. Like I was saying, Sword of Fire and Ice. And just watching people lose because you're playing cards with colored pips and you weren't able to cast your spells at one point, or there was a lot of tension in like trying to find your colored sources for the spells, and like how greedy do you get with how many colored spells do you put in your deck versus sources, and like there's just a lot of like deck building constraint that happens. So it seemed really there's a lot, like if I was to draft this again, I would like try to find out where that balance is instead of just like drafting an aggressive deck again, even though I love drafting decks like this, so it's okay. Yeah, like being greedy is like drafting, you know, basic island, snow-covered forest, right? Like but like it's a strategy, which is cool. Like you're prioritizing basics, and like how that changes the texture of the whole draft, because we're drafting the entire cube, so you know the ecosystem is complete. Like, you know, it's not like a 540 where you know you're gonna whiff. There's a chance you can just whiff on not seeing certain cards. We're seeing everything here, and so someone's gonna get the lands, and it's going to have a ripple effect on what's possible with everybody else. Yeah. Wait, which one is Etched Monstrosity? You did? You got to activate this thing? So extra monster actually is a 5 mana 10/10 that enters the battlefield with 5 -1/-1 counters. And you can pay Wooburg, remove 5 -1/-1 counters from it to draw 3 cards. So it's like you actually got to do that. That is so cool. Man. I feel kind of bad that I took the land from you. I had this like land that was like you pay 5. It's like taps for a colorless, or you pay 5 mana and tap it, and you add Wooburg to your mana pool, which would have been like very good in Zach's deck. And I took it because I was worried about colored sources or something. I don't remember. I remember like taking it in like pack 2 or 3 is kind of like in a week in like a pack that had nothing I wanted. Anyway, so I 3-0'd by the skin of my teeth with aggro. If y'all want to check out the Devoid Cube, this is really, really sweet. And a lot of fun to play. It's a really unique draft environment and play environment. I don't think you're going to play a lot of other cubes that like have this kind of design restriction and have a metagame attached, like a good metagame attached to it, and some tension involved in like deck building, drafting, etc. I probably already said that like 100 times. After that, so this is not the full day that we had. After that, we drafted Time Spiral Remastered. And I have never drafted Time Spiral Remastered before. So I drafted Black-Green. So if anybody knows me, and I made this joke during the draft, I don't know if anybody actually got it, because only a couple people there like knew me. Like Zach's the only person that like knows me well enough. I was like, if anybody knows me, they'll know what I'm drafting. Which is just like black-green, fair, mid-range, graveyard value recursion crap. Gotta run to a meeting, but I'll stay quiet in the chat. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to see you, Zach. I love seeing you in person. I always love chatting with you about Cube in general. I wish we got to chat a little more about it afterward, but so it goes. Or just chat about Magic and games in general. Zach's a good mind about it and a good follow. And Zach also writes for Hipsters of the Coast. He does a weekly column about, like, he does these really cool ones where he focuses on, like, a card and what he likes or doesn't like about that singular card. So, like, this week's one, it's called Design of a Card. Ecologist Terrarium was the most recent one. So, I would strongly, if y'all are in this chat because you're interested in, like, cube design or game design in general, or just, like, cards in Magic and how they affect the game, he's a good follow and a good read. Anyway, so after this, Time Spiral Remastered, I open a black removal spell. I get past Sudden Spoiling. I get past a black removal spell. I get past an Imperiosaur. I get past a Thorn-Wheeled Archer. I get past a black card. Next thing you know, I'm just fucking black-green. And I'm like, of course I am. And so my deck was, like, fine-ish. Like, I never played Time Spiral. I never played Time Spiral Remastered. So I was like, you know, Zach gave us a little, like, here's what the archetypes are kind of doing. And so I just, if I had known beforehand a little bit more about, like, what the card pool was, I probably would have made a bunch of different, like, better, would have made a bunch of better choices. I didn't get a picture of my deck, unfortunately, but I did get, like, I had a bunch of 2-drops, including a couple of Wrathy Trappers, which is a black tapper. I got a Tarmogoyf, which, against Manny, actually got it to 7/8, everyone. Tarmogoyf had every single card type in the graveyard except Planeswalker. Which is, like, in a game of Limited? Like, what? And the reason this happened was because Manny had cast Bound in Silence, which, if anybody doesn't know what Bound in Silence is, it's an old pacifism variant that is a tribal enchantment. Because the idea was you could tutor this up with a rebel that could search for a rebel card. So this is a rebel tribal card that you could search up with like Remotion, Sergeant, or Blight Speaker, or whatever card can tutor it up. So this was in the graveyard, and I had Hollow One or something in the graveyard, or there was like a Chromatic Star, and then the normal land creature sorcery instant. So there were 7 fucking card types in the graveyard. Like, when does that ever happen? When does that ever happen? Tarmogoyf is what? 4-5? 5-6? In constructed? You know? Come on. Anyway, I didn't get to cast Sudden Spoiling. If anybody doesn't know what Sudden Spoiling is, it is funny. It's a split-second card, which, you know, we can debate about the merits of split-second if you want, but I don't want to. It says that all your creatures target player controls lose all abilities and become O2s. So it's like Dress Down, kind of, but like it's only your opponent's creatures, and they all become O2s, and they can't respond to you. So it's a Plague Wind, and it's uncounterable. Not the most interesting card, but it does require combat, which obviously we're in limited, so like who the fuck cares? Sudden Spoiling. Never got to cast it, but holy shit, this would have been an insane blowout. So, whatever. I did some cute little graveyard things. I got some cards back from the graveyard. You know, I replayed my threats. I had some Penumbra Spiders. It was fine. Like, I won a match. I lost a match. I lost to Dan, to the Devoid Cube designer, who just drafted a go wide aggro deck, and I just couldn't keep up. Played too many creatures, and then I played against a Slivers deck, and I beat the Slivers deck. Went 1-1, and then we went home, and I played Magic for like 7 hours yesterday. 7 hours? 7 hours. And it was everything I wanted in my Sunday. It was lovely. It was absolutely lovely. And so thank you so much to Dan, and thank you to everybody who came. Had a fucking awesome time. Awesome time playing Paper Magic. Guys, Paper Magic, and Friends, and The Gathering is really... Like, I know it's been 2 years, and like, pandemic is still this shadow looming over everything, but like, let's not forget that like this is why we all started playing, and like this is like the thing that really keeps me connected to the game over just literally playing the game, because like playing the game is fine. Like I can play Magic Online, I can play Arena, and I do, but none of it means anything if I can't play in paper, and I can't play against another human being, and I can't be with my friends. So like Magic being a social game is so integral and vital to the game's existence that like it's playing in paper with people is just such a good reminder of like how important that is to the game, period. Happy Monday, Wombat, and hello, Zoe. Sorry, I'm just having my speech about Paper Magic because yesterday was like, you know, just such a good reminder. I've been playing Paper Magic like a bunch recently. I've been playing... Hey. So wait, hey, Lucky Paper's in the chat. Can everybody say hello to Lucky Paper? Lucky Paper, for those of you who don't know, is Anthony... Don't kill me. It's 2 people. I always just think of you as the Lucky Paper guys. Andy and Anthony. Hi. And y'all make a great podcast. And you produce really good content for the Cube community. And y'all have a really good attitude about Cube, which is awesome. So welcome, Lucky Paper. I hope things are going well for you down in Baltimore. So wait, is Lucky Paper? Which one are you? Is it Andy or Anthony? One of you had a birthday recently too. I saw that on Twitter. Played a bunch. Well, me too, buddy. Andy is always on the accounts. Okay, but you are Andy. Okay. Yeah. So me too, man. Like we played a bunch in paper, and so anyway, just like paper, man. Like paper magic is where it's at. Like this is how we all started in this. Like it's hard to remember because it feels like it's been forever for some people. Like people still have not been able to play paper magic in like almost 2 years, and that just sucks so much. But you know, every time I play, like I've been playing EDH recently in the city with some friends. Like I'm not an EDH person, but like I built a deck. I'm playing it. It's been wonderful to just hang out and play games of EDH. Like it's such a good casual social thing, and then playing Cube and picking a paper, like doing a draft with booster packs. Like I need more of this. This is my lifeblood. This is why I do this. Digital's fine. Like it's you know, it doesn't quite scratch the itch. It does. It's like it hits just below. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that again very soon. I'm gonna try to get a draft of my cube together soon if I can. Okay. Now that we're done with that, talking about yesterday. Yeah, I mean, me too. You know what though, Andy? We did something. So we were all boosted, and we also everyone took a rapid test that morning. So like that felt good. Like it felt like we did our due diligence to like make everyone comfortable. But yes, there's always like a little bit of unease surrounding it, you know, and I totally get it. So let me just like say this like real quick though. Like for me, you know, after I'm not gonna get too much into this because I don't want this to turn into like a COVID stream. But like after a lockdown, because like after a lockdown, I work in the luxury market. I work in like luxury retail. I work with like I sell expensive shit, and our storefront opened back up in early July of 2020, and I had to just start commuting on the train in New York City and working in a store with a mask on, of course, but I was around hundreds of people every single day, 5 days a week in July 2020, and it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years of me doing that. So like for myself, I've been like just so dead into the idea of being around people that like I'm probably a lot more base level comfortable with that stuff than like other people. Not to say that other people should be that way at all, but like I want to make sure people are as comfortable playing Magic around me as possible. But I don't feel any of that like anxiety about being around people, and I just feel so bad for people that do. Like it sucks, and I'm happy that some of them are finally like Zach are like coming out and like playing paper Magic again. It's like it's meaningful. It's like, you know, we're being careful, being good about it, but we're like we want to be together, and that's wonderful. And I just, you know, it's like you're getting that social community stuff in your bloodstream again. It just feels so good. Yeah, Derek, a salesman. Yeah. Why? Could you tell? Like, by the way I act or something? Anyway, whatever. Enough about that. I don't want to get too far into that, because that's not why you're here. You're here to talk about Cube. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a quick break to go use the bathroom and get some water. So about like 2 minutes, not that long. Stay right here, and then we're going to transition into talking about the MOCS drafts, because I know that was like kind of my main event that I had advertised yesterday. So and I'll give you my little speech about that beforehand when I get back, but just give me like 2 minutes, okay? Yeah. You're here for the MOCS chat. Good, me too. So, okay. A little bit of a little preamble about the MOCS chat. I did not watch this. I was working. So I have no idea. I know what the record was of the main person we're gonna watch, but I have no idea what happened or how they're gonna talk about it or anything. So I'm gonna kind of be watching this with y'all, and we're gonna talk about it together. And I can tell you a little bit about the person that's gonna be featured, but just a little tiny bit. I just know that like they are extremely passionate about Cube Draft, and they have worked a lot to. Yeah, you can see this lovely photo of Luis Scott Vargas and Cedric. Let me move this camera a little bit so I can get like y'all can see it a little bit better than me. Okay. Just outspokenness, being able to have good long chats, even less action in chat, general vibe. Yeah, outspokenness. Yeah, I guess so. I definitely have a big personality. I know that. Pumped to see the outcome of high-level vintage cube. Yeah, me too. So yeah, I mean, I've been in the sales thing for a long time. So I definitely like have that energy to me. I totally see that. And I've always I don't know. I've been really enjoying like being on stream and just like kind of doing this little morning show thing for a while, and just kind of like, I don't know, being in front of you all. And I'm just so thankful that all of you show up and listen to me, because like I'm not like some fucking brilliant game designer. I just have my own opinions, and I'm really curious about everything. So I really appreciate everybody just hanging out with me. It's like it I don't know, it means a lot more to me than you might expect. Okay, so we can do this. We can full screen this. So I haven't like ever streamed like a Twitch thing before. Can I can increase the speed. Okay. So I'm probably gonna go at normal, and I'm gonna here. Let me get a little audio balance here. I didn't really work on this before.
When you mana drain something on like turn 2 or 3, you can just often end the game by.
Okay, cool. So.
Slamming a Mind Twist.
Can y'all hear this?
You know, so any card that costs 5 or more mana, and you'll have probably 2 or 3 mana from the mana drain. So, really messed up card, and can do some pretty busted things.
Okay, cool. So, all right. Good volume too. Okay, good. Okay, so MOCS draft. Awesome. So Nathan Stewart is someone who is going to be featured, and I know we're going to watch. And they did this really cool thing, because I watched like a minute of this. Is that we're going to see who's on either side of them. So like Canister is on one side, and Binu is on the other side. So we're going to be able to see what they're picking. And then we get to hear, you know, LSV. So, okay, let's set the stage a little bit. So we have Nathan, who plays a lot of Vintage Cube and approaches it as a competitive person, and was in Alpha Frog, Gavin's last invitational, which I helped commentate. I don't know if anybody saw me doing that. It was my first time doing commentary, and I think I did not do well, but I think I did like just well enough. So I'm hoping to get invited back on that. But he was in. I think he made the top 8 at least. He's very, very good at approaching this format competitively. And then we have the 2 commentators. We have LSV and Cedric. So a little bit about both of their predilections as cube drafters, because they both they're probably going to give insight as their own personalities. LSV is a blue player. He likes blue. He likes Dirtle. He's not a person that's probably going to like play mono white all that often or mono red. Probably mono. He does like mono red, like historically, but like he's like a storm. Yeah, he's like a bad storm deck, but he's such a good player that he's able to like navigate really weird decks to victory. So he's fun to watch. But his like preference is blue. Cedric is definitely a white player. He's definitely like forces mono white, even when it's not open. Like he loves mono white. I haven't not ever seen him draft anything else. So they both have like a little bit of different, approaches to what they like how they like to approach the cube. My way of approaching the cube, personally, is to stay away from blue, because it's overvalued. Except if I open like power or whatever, I think it's overvalued, and I try to stay away from green, except for like gold cards or whatever, because I think that green is also overvalued. I don't think that mono green is like a good color, although I understand that like anything I say in this regard, people will find success with these archetypes even if I don't like them. I think it's possible to draft the hard way. Yes, I do, but I don't think you're going to. I think drafting the hard way in Vintage Cube, as I interpret it, is like knowing what the metagame is and how to go against that. Because like drafting what's open and like building your deck based on what you're seeing and all that shit. You've never played the Vintage Cube? Andy, how dare you? Yeah, everyone has very strong opinions about Vintage Cube. But like, no. Mr. Lucky Paper. What the hell is this? And you call yourself a Cube community person. Yeah, I guess paper is legit, huh? So my preference is to play, like previously it was white black, like mono white black, because nobody drafted white. Now people fight for white, but no, like a white aggressive and disruptive decks. Nobody would draft white, and then you could just get like Scrubland and Concealed Courtyard and like Godless Shrine, unless people were fighting for bad Esper decks, which unfortunately people like to do. And you can just take like Thoughtseizes and Mesmeric Fiends and Vindicates and like just put pressure on them and disrupt them, and it was a really, really good recipe for success against both combo and like these like blue-based decks. Oh well, if you've watched streamers play for hundreds of hours, then you don't need to play. All right. Anyway, enough about all this. So, opening pack 1, pick one. I have a feeling that this person's going to take Mana Drain. And let's listen in.
In the best color. You're also not passing like any good blue cards. You're passing a Portent. And the best couple cards, Lelia, the Blade Reforged, actually a card I've got impressed with through Vintage, not Vintage Cube, actual Vintage. You can play the card.
Oh.
It's a card that I was on
it was just awesome
immediately and tested it, and it was unbelievable. So I'm glad that people like Lelia.
After this Mana Drain.
Okay, so they take Mana Drain, totally defensible. I mean, come on, it's Mana Drain. Like the ceiling on Mana Drain is insane, and the base level being counterspell is good. Counterspells have been cut from the cube over the years, so like, if you prefer playing a reactive gameplay, Mana Drain's insane.
With Mana Drain, which is exactly.
It did. It took a while for people to see Lelia.
There, you are passing a fetch land, and is it Lelia?
I think it's Lelia, yeah.
Thank you, Cedric, for calling out passing a fetch land. Even though Mana Drain is better, thank you.
But I mean, that card's awesome.
Oh, yeah, totally. The thing about passing a blue card, though, is it kind of doesn't matter that much. Whoa!
Hello.
Getting past a MOCS Pearl. Well, there you go.
Well, maybe somebody took Ancestral Recall like our previous.
Not much to say here.
Yeah, Ancestral, maybe a different colored MOCS on color preference.
You'd have to make a really strong case for just not taking power.
I think pretty reasonable to take over MOCS.
Whatever.
Not much else, though. Not much else, so.
Yeah, there's really not much.
The person to your right is more likely to be blue than any other color because of the, like, 5 cards you take over MOCS, 2 of them are blue. So
Sure.
I don't know.
If you take a look at this pack, MOCS Pearl's obviously coming with Nathan. He's already
That's true.
Reviewing the pack, we'll do the same. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, Baleful Strix. Not sure how you feel about Edric or Memory Deluge. Is there anything here that stands out to you as like, hey, I'm hoping
Yeah, like there could have been like MOCS Sapphire or something.
yeah, there's a bunch of that pack is full of like 5th pick
Or
cards,
Soul Ring.
you know, Teferis and Baleful Strixes and all that stuff. Where it would be nice if one of those came
If
back.
I need to
but
start
there's
speeding
nothing
this
to really
up,
rely on
I
too
will.
much.
But I think like
All right,
this.
well, if I'm Nathan, I'm in my 3rd one of these in a row, and I haven't won one of these yet. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm off to a good start. That's what I'm thinking right now.
This is a fantastic start. So I want to talk a little bit about blue and Vintage Cube because, as we've said, it's the best color. It's got all the best cards. You know, it is. I'm not saying, by the way, that it's better to draft blue than mono red or mono white. Those actually have higher win percentages historically because blue's fought over by many players. But the thing about blue is you could know the person to your right is in blue, and it wouldn't necessarily be a terrible decision to draft blue cards. You know, you'd have to see, but it's the sort of thing where it is a possibility. Like I would still be inclined just to take Venser here.
That is like a long-held thing by Louis Scott Vargas about blue and Vintage Cube, which is that he made this joke a long time ago, that like if I'm drafting Vintage Cube, I'm always blue no matter what. It's just like how much of my deck is blue, and so like his stance on like, yes, blue cards are individual, like blue has some of the most individually powerful cards in the cube. So like, you know, it can be worth it to just play blue for a couple cards. It has the high end of blue are the best cards in the cube, basically. Aside from like whatever, like Lotus or whatever. So like I get it. But this is like a long-standing thing for LSV. Also like he literally just said what I was saying, which is that like I'm like it's not like these other decks have higher win rates, which they do, mono red and mono white, especially mono white, but he still wants to play blue because he wants to play with more powerful cards in a vacuum, like individually.
I like Venser a lot. Cards that I'm looking at in this pack, I like Venser. I like Skyclave Apparition.
I'm gonna have to speed this up a little bit.
Lands here so much. Liliana, the Last Hope, is a card I've liked a decent amount. Seasoned Pyromancer is a card I've liked a decent amount. Past that, nothing really stands out. So I think Venser is probably the best pick. I don't know how much. I'll ask you this question, and let me know your thoughts. Do you care about something like, you know, cutting or signaling in Vintage Cube and ditching? Like, you know, you take a couple blue cards, you're like, okay, I'm out of here.
So, I guess I could comment on that a little bit. Venser, because you want to play Mana Drain, right? You just take the blue card. The matches are insanely fast. Okay.
Switch, you know, as general.
Maybe I'll slow it down when we get to the actual games.
So, to a lesser degree, I would still probably take Venser here, even if I knew Canister, who's passing to Nathan, had face-up picked Ancestral Recall or Time Lock first pick. But because like I think that there's enough powerful cards in the Vintage Cube, you're just not ever going to be short on playables unless something really drastic happens. Like you can still get good blue cards in pack 2 if blue's open in that direction, and even with like you're even getting good decent blue cards when getting cut off in blue because there's just that much to go around.
Yeah, because
every blue card is good, whereas like every black card is definitely not good. In fact, you know, a big portion of them are cards that you're not that excited about. That being said, you do have to like do a little bit of signal reading and think about it a little. If you know, if you've got some blue and red cards and you get a 5th pick Goblin Guide, it's probably a pretty good sign, or a 6th pick, you know, Mother Runes or something, or Armageddon. Like
this is something that like this pack's not really got much. Like
get really punished for pick.
Okay, wait. So here we go. Okay, now we get to see the pod, right? This is where I tuned in on this for like a minute or two. This is all I saw. So now we get to see who he's passing to and who's passing to him. So right away, now we're going to get some really cool information. So Muhan Yu took MOCS Sapphire over Pearl, which, yeah, it was a better MOCS. And then they took Force of Will. And then they took Uro, which is like super fucking cool. Like Uro is not like super powerful in this cube, but it does signal to me that this person wants to be like a grindier, multicolor blue green deck, or just blue based deck. Yeah, I like my main cube, Uro is a high pick, but that's because there's nothing really unfair going on. But that's strong. That's an early Uro. And then, okay, so it looks like Canister took like Jite, Lelia, and then Animate Dead. So Animate Dead looks like a spec. Early Jite means they probably want to be aggressive. Lelia probably means they want to be red.
Now, Gideon Ally of Zendikar is an option here. There's also
So Gideon is not a card that's even on my radar here.
Card I've not been really all that impressed by.
Canister snaps off Pyro.
Turn to you here. Do you like?
Okay, so it's like they want to take red cards and spec on black.
Focus on blue-white, and if you are thinking blue-white, would you prefer the land? Or would you
so
prefer the 4-drop?
yeah,
I would take Seachrome Coast over Gideon. I think that it's.
And Wuhan takes Counterspell
to just be able to cast the spells. That
so
being said, you could take Gideon and just keep an eye out for being mono.
Yeah, I
think that's a reasonable place to go.
I mean, do y'all like Gideon that much? Like, or is this just like Nathan saying, I want to open up the chance of white coming my way? Because, like, Gideon is just, like, fine. It's not great, but, I mean, maybe he, like... You have roughly 4,000 fetches and makes... Hey, I don't have 4,000. I have 40, okay? You watch your mouth.
But I think I would take Seachrome Coast over Gideon if I was aiming to play these blue cards. And you can see Canister off to it also extremely good. Wait, Canister's to his left. It's Muhan Yu.
So now here I, like, Signet... but, like, the Gideon thing is weird. I mean, maybe look at Pearl and he just wants to be, like, a mid-range blue-white deck.
So you are drafting blue
fine.
next to a blue player, whereas Canister's on black-red Reanimator, it looks like, or something. The beginnings of a potential that, or just be mono-red potentially with
And to LSV's credit, like,
and then an Animate Dead
talking about, like, how, you know, Muhan's taking, like, Counterspell, Force of Will, and then, like, Nathan is still taking, like, you know, is going to have Float, Mana Drain, and Venser, and they're both going to be blue.
That should be going
probably.
Canister's way, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Canister select that. Looks like has red instead of that. Maybe a little surprised. Maybe I read the pack wrong. Not sure. But if we take a look at Muhan Yu's deck, that must have been that MOCS Sapphire had to be over the MOCS Pearl.
Yeah.
That's why Nathan was able to get
Okay, and then wait, so
very early.
Glogowski takes Hazoret, so they probably want to be mono. They probably want to be mono red,
picked Uro in that position just because
which is tricky now because
my experience with Uro haven't been.
Because mono red is like got nerfed again, so like I hope that he knows that.
Super positive. Like it's a good card in some decks.
Okay, so here
I'm really going out of my way.
Like, okay, take the Banishing Light if you just want to keep on this blue-white thing. I would just take Underground Sea.
Definitely something I'm interested in because I think Banishing Light is just not a very good.
There's just nothing else for me in this pack besides like Lotus Petal or Gaia's Cradle and like you're not playing either of those cards.
Yeah, Underground Sea this late is extremely notable.
Yeah.
I differ in my opinion on Banishing Light than you do, but that's okay. I like the card well enough. Obviously, I'm not a white fan. I like it there a ton. I don't like it as much in like a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, but like
other ways of taking care of stuff.
I understand. Yeah, I would probably also take Underground Sea there, but maybe Muhan just thinks that like counterspells are so few and far between that like just in like maxing out on the interaction is something that he wants is a way that he wants to win the game. Muhan, okay, let's also bring up that Muhan's background is Cryptic Command. So
I wasn't speaking to Banishing Light in the context of mono white. I think that it's actually pretty good there because the mono white decks also just have a bunch of artifacts and enchantments just almost every time anyway. So it's not like
if I'm Nathan, I'm also like
those kind of cards aren't going to be.
I took a Gideon. There's no white cards, but maybe he just sees Gideon as a control card.
That matter to you at all?
Yeah, I actually haven't found mono green to be particularly impressive. Ooh. So Nathan's got a couple options here. Looking at this pack, I'm kind of interested in Duretti or Yoko Hops. So the combo with Yoko Hops is 4 red destroys all.
That is a ridiculously late Duretti. This card is ridiculous in this cube.
Basically, but I would still probably just take Duretti here. You've got Is It Signet and Underground Sea, and I haven't seen a strong reason to go white. You have one white card.
There's no reason to go white. Like this over.
I would struggle to
what? Oops, all Gideons? I mean, Condemn is the only other card I see here.
You got that Underground Sea. Now you can prioritize fetch lands or some different lands a little bit higher. I don't love 5-mana Gideon all that much. I kind of see it as more of a sideboard card against aggressive strategies for the most part. Duretti, though, I mean, Duretti does some things that just other cards can't do, and it's cheap, and it looks to be pretty castable, and now you can kind of draft around a little bit more. So I would be looking towards...
Muhan gets a 7th pick Preordain. Wow, he takes Gideon Jura.
Which I think is a card that's a little bit overrated in Vintage Cube.
Okay.
Your thoughts there, because that looks like that's going to be Nathan's pick.
He's obviously going to take Balance here.
Would be if I was Nathan.
But like, holy shit, dude.
Balance is good with basically...
You're basically saying you want to be blue-white based on having...
Don't get counted. And so the Gideon pick actually worked out really well for Nathan. One thing about Nathan, though, I'm pretty much thinking blue's cut off. And if you look at what Muhan Yu's got, he's just been picking up the goods. Force of Will, Preordain. still not super stoked about
Yeah,
Zero. But
Canister
this
getting the
Canister
Duretti
that's
now.
a great start. If you're Nathan, it's looking a little bit sketchy because it's hard to build a white control deck without blue. You're just gonna have to take the
No,
blue cards from the
Gideon.
next pack and, you know,
Yeah,
Canister
exactly.
is looking
Gideon
to
doesn't
be
like
mono red or
pull
black
me
red, probably
into
not gonna
being
take
like
the
a
blue
blue white
cards
deck.
for you, so
Teferi
you can
does
go with
obviously,
the
but
blue white
the
control deck
Teferis are
and
very
balance
a
does
lot
look really
more
nice. You've got
powerful.
two Gideons, the Signet, and the MOCS. So still a pretty solid start for Nathan here.
I love,
gonna
like,
be
of
interesting to
all
see
these
what
decks,
direction he
I
goes, 'cause
love
only
what
two blue cards
Canister's
are picks
doing
one and
the
two.
most.
Yes.
Or
Because I like these, like,
Yeah, and
Mardu
it's
color
really
kind of
up on
decks,
that, right? It's just
personally.
like, I'm not really getting past anything of consequence in blue right now. Now, of course, pack 2, I'm passing the other way. So as you mentioned, I could take blue cards that way and would have to prioritize too much. So just another thing to keep in mind. And well, Portent.
Okay,
wheel,
Portent's a good
I'm
wheel.
not sure how much you care. I mean, it's not nothing.
No, it's a good card. I'm actually a little surprised Muhan took Zealous Conscripts over Portent, but I guess once you've got a really good setup for Twin, so I could see wanting to try to pick up a Twin combo
That's
piece.
fair.
But I'm Nathan. I'm just gonna happily take Portent.
Thank you, LSV,
Portent,
for
funnily
saying
enough,
that
also
Portent is a
combos
playable
balance.
card.
You cast it in the same
I don't know
turn
why
as
people
balance,
hate
no
on this
player
card.
turn
I
till
mean,
the
it's
next turn,
obviously
so
a lot worse than
you're just trying to like
than
just
Ponder, but
the key with balance is, first of all, it kills all the creatures because this deck's not looking like it'll have any. You're trying to put as many of your cards in places that don't get counted for balance. Oh,
I'm not gonna love Canister's deck at the
Pretty
end.
much so.
Okay.
Like, it would be really hard not to end up in blue-white control at this point when you've got 3 Planeswalkers, balance.
It looks like
Monster,
Canister's like hedging because they have
that's long gone. Not going to come back.
they just took a Goblin Welder.
You got 3 Planeswalkers now. You might prioritize, in my
So
opinion.
the Teferi came back.
You obviously already have
Okay.
that. Maybe you want a. I know there's Wrath in the cube. I don't think the Judgment is in the cube anymore. But you know, just another. Maybe you want.
So Muhan's deck, I've drafted decks like
that
this,
definitely works as
and
well.
they
you're
like
gonna
they
be
don't really work out as
pretty
often
close
as
to
I think.
Creatureless. We know there's the Venser in the deck, but by and large, you're just going to be pretty close to
Takes the
Creatureless.
finale of Devastation.
Yeah, that's my
That
expectation.
Niv Mizzet
You
going
get some
late,
good
so
ones with
sad.
Click or something. You sometimes play like Restoration Angel, Wall of Omens, like the value creatures basically. But this is the kind of deck where like you have Geist of Saint Traft in your sideboard to bring in against control or combo, but you don't really want it. One thing I've noticed, by the way, and I think that this would actually work pretty well for you if you made it to one of these.
Yeah, the aggro
most of
combo
these drafts
reanimator.
are way less on the like nonsense decks and way higher on the board position.
I mean,
creature, aggro
but
decks
like,
then you're there's the Seachrome Coast. That's a fantastic wheel.
wow,
It's just
what
wide
the?
open here for
Are people just not taking the lands?
Yeah, well, this worked out, and it looks like Muhan is
Or are we
kind of
finally at
blue-green.
the point where we
So
have
you can
enough
go
lands in the
blue-green
cube?
and black red in blue-white control.
Because I know
But,
Carmen was like adding lands
cards
to the
like
cube for a
Gideon and
while.
Balance and Wrath, you do get a lot better here than if
Wave is good in aggro.
Because, look, I'm not saying these players aren't going to enjoy this.
Shut up,
They're not
Miles.
drafting for flash or fun. They're drafting to try to win the game. So,
Totally agree.
so you're going to see. Oh, I don't think you're going to make it, but the Joker Hub's actually is kind of tempting.
I figured you were going to perk up a little bit about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Soul is one of the best cards, maybe the best card in the cube.
It's
At this
probably
point,
the
I
best
think
card in
most
the
over Soul
cube.
Ring, but Soul Ring's probably second or so, you know, and this is
Arguably, it's like
perfect Soul Ring.
arguably the
You've
best
got
card in the
balance
cube.
and 3 expensive planeswalkers.
What percentage chance do you think that Muhan is going to take
That's
Cryptic
even
Command
more,
here?
As you mentioned.
Given that that's like literally their
You're always
background.
Be able to play these Gideons and Vensers and Teferi ahead of schedule.
Fuck vegetables,
Probably not
man.
gonna wheel
Yeah,
the consequence
seriously.
here. I kind of assume Cryptic Command's going to get snapped up. Oh wow, Muhan picked up a really late Primeval Titan and Sakura Tribe Elder, so looking like a really good blue-green ramp deck.
Okay, so yeah,
But
Muhan getting this stuff on the
basically,
wheel
I
is
think that
pretty
you see a lot
powerful.
more fair decks because people tend not to go for things like Storm or any really strange decks, you know, or decks that could work out or could not work out.
How is Char still a card? I don't know.
in this kind of situation.
Question for you here, and then we'll address that.
All right.
Bribery, Misty Rainforest, Path to Exile. Is this an easy bribery for you? Do you care more about the fetch land and try to potentially fix the mana? I am curious.
I would go with the bribery here. The Soul Ring and Mox Pearl really make bribery appealing. If it was a flooded strand, I'd be a little more tempted, but wheeling the Seachrome Coast makes me feel like you might be able to pick up a late Hallowed Fountain or Tundra, and I'm definitely not going to take Sun Titan or Path. Path is the better of the two, but there's a chance that wheels, and even if it doesn't, you've got balance and you've got these Gideons. You're pretty good at beating up on creatures with this start.
How do y'all feel about bribery? I'm really curious. Because, like, you're passing a fetch land and a Path to Exile. You're passing really good cards. Is bribery really that high on people's list still?
Okay. So now bribery added. We take a look over here at Canister's deck, this kind of red-black...
Miles is out here with the fucking flaming hot takes this
If
morning. I
right
like
now,
it.
My thought process is I probably just have to try to go mono-red. Hopefully it's open. We see the players that are kind of next to him in Nathan and then Muhan a little way down.
Yo,
they're not really
Canister
at
going
all.
full-on
They're mono.
Aliantrazi here.
Looking here at Nathan, what he's got to choose from in this pack, there's Celestial Colonnade for mana.
Colonnade.
Do you want to dive a little bit deeper and potentially...
Maybe Sower of Temptation or Wall of
On the cheap
Omens.
side of things with the Gataxian Probe. Your thoughts, Luis?
My inclination is just to take the Colonnade. You could try to wheel it. Maybe that's what Nathan's thinking, because the Seachrome did wheel. Probe is a strong card, though. Even if in a deck with basically no combos with Probe, getting to see their game plan is amazing. Like, like, let's say Muhan.
I don't have any arguments against attacking Probe.
Like, you're almost up
I think fixing is better, but
Well, Probe it is.
Probe is just like kind of free, I guess.
Meanwhile, Canister, I guess the mono red strategy isn't really open because he's taking Durettis and Furies and Basalt Monoliths, and I don't really know what's going on over there.
Sure,
we'll
Uncolor Signet.
Yeah,
red black mid range, not.
Muhan takes the Cryptic Command, of course.
No. Zorius Signet here. It looks like for Nathan, looks like another fine pickup.
Oh,
Other
easy
cards-
Zorius Signet, yeah.
Yeah, other cards maybe have interest or Murktide Region, which I don't think his deck is going to do that particularly well. Simic Signet if there's thoughts of splashing green in some way, but this is a pretty clear
Yeah.
cut Zorius Signet.
Canister's going
Nice
full
little
on.
Simic Signet for Muhan over there.
Yep.
Like, are they gonna take? Is there like a Mayhem Devil
I like
in the
Zorius
cube now
Signet
or
here.
something?
Again, perfect.
You pass a red
balance,
fetch?
High
I
drops,
mean,
it just does
I
all
don't
the
know.
things you want. It even fixes your mana. Because right now you have one blue-white duel. You'd like to pick up.
They didn't
this
wheel
straight pick up
Badlands
deck
either,
that's
so
got some doubles in both colors and a little bit of card draw.
No Mayhem
I
Devil.
think
Okay.
that if you end up with like 3 blue-white duels, you'll be pretty happy. Oh, Teferi Time Raveler. I
Sure.
thought was awesome.
You also need a 3. I love Teferi Time
This
Raveler.
is just shaping up to be a really good
So-
deck.
Oh yeah, this deck is a dream. Like Nathan has found his lane and is just at this point I would not anticipate him splashing any colors. Like the Underground Sea could be useful if you pick up like a Marsh Flats exactly, because that way you can fetch for white or blue with Marsh Flats, that sort of thing. But for the most part, I think that we're gonna be happy with what we end up with here.
Really? Okay. I mean, I like you have Soul Ring and Mana Drain, like, and Balance. Like those are good, and then you have a bunch of Planeswalkers.
Yeah, this is a fantastic start.
Is
Your
it?
deck
though?
has some pieces of power.
Yeah.
Game plan. Your cards are all pretty darn powerful. And you can cast your powerful cards ahead of schedule, and balance looks very good here as well. So, taking a look at the other decks here briefly.
I mean, this is a good. I will give them credit. This is a good
You
balance
mentioned
deck.
maybe blue-green ramp. Looks like it might be just some sort of weird team or mishmash of cards instead.
I think that where Muhan's going is basically like, I'm gonna be blue-green, maybe I'll splash red. We've got like Ramanop, which right now wouldn't make the cut, but of course if you end up with a strip mine or something, you could end up getting there.
I have to say,
I
guys,
like
this
it.
is a
Yeah,
really,
like
really
if you
good
pick up
format for
good
this.
It helps Uro, helps your team or stuff.
You just get
as
so
well.
much more
And
information,
having
like
a
as
bunch
a
of counter
viewer.
spells means you're good against some portion of decks, and then Uro and green cards tend to be good against like the mono red style decks as well.
Now, as for what's going on down there in the bottom left with Canister, Peter Godolowski, Luis, I leave that up to you.
So what I think
Yeah,
is happening
it's
is
really
Canister's
good.
drafting black-red mid-range, but more on the aggressive side.
Okay.
I assume the packs aren't really cooperating to be mono-red, but he is going to be mono-red maybe if he can end up...
Pass Croxa for Bitter
But I guess he
Blossom?
just took Bitter
The
Blossom
fuck is
over
wrong
Colorado.
with you? Come on!
So maybe he's trying to make...
yes,
like
Factor
Waves
Fiction.
And, Planeswalkers work.
Maybe some sort of Rakdos Sacrifice-esque deck, perhaps.
Toxic Deluge looks way better than Factor Fiction here for me.
Toxic Deluge. You've got one black source, no fetches yet for the Deluge.
Like, you have no card draw yet, but
And lean Factor Fiction yourself.
you figure that
Yeah,
shit
which is
out.
a fact. You also have a MOCS, a Soul Ring, and 2 Signets. Like, if you just start with, like, land MOCS, Signet, turn 2 Foff, or just turn on Soul Ring, turn 2 Foff, you end up in a pretty good spot. One thing in defensive Canister's deck, by the way, the effect I mentioned earlier where people play more...
I'm like not that high on Factor Fiction,
that
guys.
does make something like
but
Black Red Midrange.
I
a little more
understand if
powerful than
people-
if it was facing down more of
No,
like unfair combo decks. Which
Trinket
still
Mage
could,
is a
of
good
course,
pickup
exist,
here.
but Look, there's an Underworld Breach and a Kiki here, pretty late in the pack. I actually kind of wonder if Muhan's going to take the
Muhan's
Kiki
probably
and
going to
move
take the
into,
Kiki.
like,
with no
blue
fixing.
slash twin stuff.
Sure, Trinket Mage. A pretty easy choice here. We have Soul Ring and a MOCS in your deck to find, so that's going to be the selection
Definitely.
there.
I assume, I mean, for those of you who watch the
Of the
matches,
3 decks, I actually like Nathan's the best here. I think that he's got the strongest.
I also like
strongest
Nathan's
start.
deck the best
I
here.
think Muhan, depending on kind of how he rounds, like which direction he takes the deck, I could see. And also Pack 3 is going to be better for Muhan and worse for Nathan. They get to switch who controls the flow of blue. So,
Oh, hello.
Hallowed
Oh.
Found and Vendilion Click?
I think you got to take the land. I think you just got to be able to. I think the only way Nathan loses. Look, I think Vendilion Click's great.
Nathan.
Very powerful card.
Are we going to take Hallowed Found here? I'm like so
Interact with products, If it
nervous.
shows up, whatever. I think the only way that he loses is if he can't cast spells.
Yeah.
Ah,
I
come
love Vendilion Click in
on!
these kind of decks.
I mean,
You must, yeah, okay.
I think
You know what this reminds me of?
You really hope to wheel Colin.
You know what this reminds me of? I mean, it's not as bad. But does anybody remember the Reed Duke draft from 2012 Players Championship? This is like, Reed was drafting 3 colors and not 2, but dear God, he kept passing fixing for cards, and then his deck was fucking awful.
Is what you do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just want to be able. I want to be. You know, I want to take like a Hallowed Fountain there. Maybe some sort of fetch comes along, like even something like a Windswept Heath shows up late that no one really generally wants. You know, because I feel right now that Nathan's deck is so powerful that I just want to be able to cast my spells. And as good as Dealing Click is, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's more powerful than being able to cast your spells.
For real, Cedric.
You're a green mage.
I probably would have taken the Hallowed Fountain myself.
Yes.
Like I think Dealing Click is very good, but one thing that is worth mentioning. Oh, so the path is gone, but the Sun Titan made it back.
Oh, and that Holiday didn't wheel either.
Nathan has like 17.
What a
playable going into
surprise.
Pack 3. He's not going to struggle to pick up enough cards to fill out his deck.
Yeah, take
So,
Field of the Dead.
would you rather have Hallowed Fountain plus your 23rd be a little bit worse than Vendilion Click?
That's a hate draft.
Yeah.
My answer to that question is yes. When I'm looking,
That's a hate draft, guys, right there.
I'm just looking at my deck and going, my deck is extremely good.
Sorry, that was my
and when I get
mic.
to that point, I'm always thinking to myself, how can I lose?
I don't have like
It's
a
not so much
long
you know,
thing for my
it's just
mic.
like, I need to be able to cast my spells.
Hey, there's the colonnade.
You're the only blue-white.
Punished.
Yeah, you're right.
My ears.
Taking Click.
Sorry, y'all.
Assumption that like you could
was
actually
my-
get the Tundra or.
I should have gotten a wireless headset.
Or wield as Colonnade. If you end up with 4 duels, you're not going to be unhappy. But I can see a world where it's so better to end up with 5 duels and then still not have.
You're not playing War
That's how I
Tyrant, dude.
feel. That's how I feel. I just want to be able to cast my spells.
You don't have cards to go to the graveyard.
My deck is so good. I'm like, I'm gonna make sure I play like an extra land, you know, because I don't want to get mana screwed, or at least reduce the chances of that. There's an Echo of Eons.
Also, going into pack 3 with 0 spot removal and 0 planeswalker or 0 wraths, except for balance.
You'd be living the dream over there, buddy.
And meanwhile, Muhan has moved into Teamer Twin. It looks like with Kiki and Zealous conscripts alongside a solid blue-green kind of assortment.
Muhan's deck is
That
looking a
good
lot
for Nathan
worse.
because the more you move away from just being blue-green control, the more cards that open up that Muhan could take. Like for example, take a Splinter.
Like
Twin,
Muhan,
Nathan doesn't care.
yeah, Omnath.
So-
Like Muhan, like looked like it could have been like an Omnath deck or
only
something.
real fear here for Nathan right now. I
But
feel like he's
whatever.
removal light.
It's very
I'd
removal
love for him
light.
to pick up something like a Swords of Plowshares. Path Exile's already gone. Just a little more early
What
interaction.
about a Palace Jailer?
Well, that's one of my favorite cards in the cube.
Well,
So,
it's a busted card. I think it's the
Yeah.
best wild card.
it's I didn't think about it. It's completely not okay. Best white card, I don't know, but I'll say this, at least in the conversation, it's outrageous.
What do you take here?
Extremely strong. So
Hold on. I know they're talking about Palace Jailer, which is fine. It's probably what he's going to take, but like, is there another? There's like not another card here that I would take, right? I'm not taking Tarpe because I have no black cards. Repeal is just so low impact. Magus of the Order, because they cut the good one, the Court of Bounty, and they left in Magus of the Order. Court of Bounty was actually like much stronger.
I love taking Palace Jailer here, and maybe you wheel Repeal or Consecrated Sphinx, but honestly, I'm kind of over
You would
Consecrated
take
Sphinx.
Fiery Islet. That's a good
I think it's
shout.
just too slow for most games. So, and plus Nathan's already got 3 cards on 5. I'm not even really counting Murktide Region. I don't think that one's making it in. But
I'd be surprised if I'd be surprised if Regent makes the deck. I love PJ in this situation, and then for Consecrated
PJ.
Sphinx, this isn't a great card, but it is something that you can mana drain out, right?
so, Mana Drain is good.
Whoa, they put red. I just noticed there's Regimental
I
Blast in
think
there.
I think it's an easy Palace Jailer. That card is just so absurd. Like if you cast that card and they kill their only creature and they have no creatures in play, like
Game's over.
what's the road bet for them
Well,
to come
obviously,
back?
Miles, they're just gonna have Soul Ring in their hand every game, so 4 drops are basically 2 drops,
I like
right?
what Canister's got going on. I'm not sure where he's gonna end up, but I like what he's got going on.
Oh yeah. So Andy, you were totally right about
Deserted Beach
this.
that you did mention, but I think chances
Take
are that's gonna weaken
fucking
when that's
Deserted
started.
Beach.
I mentioned earlier that I felt.
Oh,
like
you have a
the
Wrath.
Deserted
Never
Beach was
mind.
kind of sweeper to control against.
You
creatures.
really need the
It's not like
sweeper.
you're damn.
Yeah, I like taking Dam here because remember you can overload it for 2 white. It's just Wrath of God, and then most likely wheel Deserted Beach. Like I would be kind of annoyed if I didn't wheel Deserted Beach because who else would want it? But
Yep.
you know, I think that you probably will.
Not much of a Treasure Cruise deck. Unburial Rites, you're not really that deck either.
Yeah, so like they're probably just gonna be able to go like Soul Ring Signet every game and just like
yeah. Things what happens at that.
It's Andy, it's fucking crazy.
What is your experience? I'm not going to focus on that so much. What's your experience?
Oh, Hullbreaker
I do
Horror.
like Hullbreaker Horror, and this is even like a solid deck for it. But I just don't think you need to take more expensive cards. I don't
No!
think that's how you're gonna, increase your win percentage.
Stop! You're killing me!
Because it can get a
Take your fucking Marsh Flat so you can cast
That's
Damn,
fine.
maybe.
Again, I lean towards when my deck is this powerful already. I've got enough cards. I just want to be able to cast my spells.
Whee!
But it's possible Nathan really likes Hullbreaker Horror and is just like. all
I
right,
mean,
fine.
yeah, that's partly why I'm watching this, Andy,
Not
because it's
unreasonable,
like,
that's the thing you really you value, but I think we were both just like on the like landscape.
holy shit, bro.
I mean, I guess kind of weird to say, but there's a chance that Marsh Flats wheels. That's not impossible that the Marsh Flats comes back, so we'll see. Oh, there's a Flooded Strand. Jeez.
Oh. You can't turn down the Flooded Strand. You can't.
Well,
I mean,
you and I
could.
couldn't.
But
I feel like... Oh, go ahead.
You're already
Well,
in a
Miles, that's
position
what-
where you're probably gonna...
There's
need to
I mean, that's kind of what these
cut
blue-white decks are. They're just like
Yes.
tap out control
That's-
decks.
so-
Tap out like big
I agree with that
control
point.
decks.
I don't know how big you are on Phantasmal Image in the cube anymore.
Take the
okay,
fucking
I don't
Flooded
think it's
Strand.
as great as it used to be, I guess I would say. And again, I just want to be able to cast my spells.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly that's where I would have been.
But it'll be a
my
Phantasmal Image
God.
that's going to show up now here for Nathan.
Ugh.
Not bad.
I'm starting to
The other
sweat.
thing is, Nathan has been dealing like adventures with both Legends and then Hullbreaker, which is super expensive.
I mean,
He
this-
did it with Palace Jailer,
This person's like
but it's just
extremely
not that
good at playing this
with his own
format,
deck,
so
which
what the
means
fuck do I
he'll play
know?
against a deck, and it'll be good against some decks, but against some decks it won't be that good. In which case it's a bit of a risk.
Yeah, I mean, who
having,
needs
like-
fixing when your deck's only
You've
2
got
colors?
Tons of double white and double blue cards. Like having another couple lands is awesome. Like the funny thing is,
Are they gonna take Time
like,
Warp
the
here?
Metamorph, and then you would really rather have taken the Flooded Strand over the second one effect.
Or Sword of Fire and Ice?
Yes.
For their
I'm
7
leaning towards
creatures?
the warp.
I do like
Got
Time
three-
Warp.
I've got 3 Planeswalkers. If you want to consider Palace Jailer...
Time
to
Warp
be
at
a
least
Monarch
is
or
like,
Planeswalker, you can
because
consider
you have,
4
like,
Planeswalkers.
3,
Yeah, no,
4
you're able to take Time Warp here.
Planeswalkers?
You have a lot of acceleration as well.
Sure. Metamorph. I remember I used to
Not
first
taking
pick that
Phantasmal Image, I
card.
think it'd be a little closer, but given that you already have a clone effect, the second clone effect does go down in value because if one's dead, the second is likely to be as well.
I agree.
No, I was not ready for this level until...
There's also part of me, too, looking at the deck construction here, so we'll take a look at this back here, and then I'll finish my point. I'm leaning Disenchant.
Oh, imagine if we had all those lands, we could take Night's Whisper.
But there's a part of me, given my deck construction, that I have a balance, that I have a dam. I want less creatures, not more.
Yeah. I agree.
That's
I
the
agree.
other thing.
Oh my god.
So I hope for Nathan's sake,
Time Warp is a good
he has no problem
Explorer, yeah.
casting his spells. 'cause
Yeah,
that's the only thing
J-Bro
that's
is like...
a little
Well,
bit
the
tough.
thing that I don't understand about J-Bro's drafting this format is he is so much about green, and
Yeah, I don't think you want to take.
and like
I
maybe
don't
I
think you're playing
undervalue
against-
green a lot. I probably undervalue green in this format, but he loves green.
I suppose technically you could get a Stoneforge Mystic. I think this is the last opportunity to do so, but
I think you might be right.
Hi, you out of here?
And hey, who knows? Maybe these lands just come back and Nathan's a genius.
No, he
we'll
just
find out.
plays like
well, I
green
think the
mid
Deserted
range.
Beach is fairly likely to.
He
but
just plays like
Flooded
green
Strand
red
Marsh
or like
Flats,
Naya or like
they'll just go in so many different decks.
and just like plays
Take a look
Nisso
at
Shakes the
Super Deck down
World
here,
and like
by Muhan.
you
What do
know
we got going on?
questing
We got
beast and
everything.
shit.
There's an Omnath hanging out now.
Yeah, this deck.
I wonder.
I think this deck got a little worse from the beginning of the pack, but it's still. I mean, when you just had all blue cards, it looked pretty good. But now it's a little bit more.
What do you take here?
pulled in
Freeman
some different
Inspector?
directions. Had you taken Marsh Flats, I think you could make an argument for Vindicate off Marsh Flats
Yes.
and Underground Sea.
I would
But
agree.
here, I do like Freeman Inspector a reasonable amount.
He throws him the sideboard. Oh, the disrespect. Oh, oh, I can't.
Take a look at Canister. Looks like the goal here might be to reanimate
A
artifacts.
CNC episode on
I see
it?
a Welder. There's the
Yeah.
Ready. There's a Mind Slaver. There's a Sundering Titan.
He's got a Faithful
What's
Student.
CNC?
He's got Blood Tithe Harvester. It's actually putting in some work in this deck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it looks a little strange.
Oh, yeah, 135. Well, that's like...
Yeah, so the Consecrated
Well,
Sphinx
1-3
with
is like a
Red
good
Elemental
heuristic for
Blast.
green. But
I don't know
135
how
is
much
also
you
good
like
too.
Repeal in this deck, but I guess with a Soul Ring and a Pearl, it gets a little bit better.
Miles,
You can
dude,
also
you're
play
on
the Gristle
fire
Ring.
today, bro.
Ooh, sorry, Canister.
I kind of like Repeal just a little bit, just for a little bit of early interaction. Because if I'm Nathan, I just want more interaction early because my late game is so good.
Canister's deck
but-
looks like the deck that's like...
I don't hate.
I took all the cards.
The-
I took all the cards that you put in the cube, and my deck does nothing.
I do like the red blasts in here.
I think his deck is like
Yeah,
too
it's really
unfocused.
Thrown in.
It kind of opens a door where it's like, well, Red Elemental Blast is in. What about Pyroblast? What about Blue Blast? What about Veil of Summer?
Yeah.
But it
What
might
about
be-
Veil
I
of
don't know.
Summer and Blue Blast? And what about Choke and Boil and Blood Moon and shit?
Sacred Foundry.
That's a whammy. That's a whammy.
Okay.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, we're not doing anything with this Unburial Rights, as I mentioned earlier. The Sacred Foundry is not really doing anything either, so that hope there.
So
I
random.
gotta say, ending up with 2 dual lands plus a blue-white signet when you could have had like 5 duels is
Yeah,
a bit
man.
rough.
Yeah, it's rough.
That's how.
Well,
I
always taking
Because-
Sacred
but,
Foundry?
no, you can also make the argument, right? I'm curious how you feel about this. Maybe I'm wrong on this one. If you feel like if you're flying solo in blue white, Isn't it possible that
okay.
some of these blue cards that you...
I mean, obviously, like, I know what the
stuff,
person's record
would
was.
have made their way back?
Yeah, I mean,
Nahiri.
you know, the cool thing about Cube is everyone just like has different values for some of these cards.
For sure.
Like Cuneo, for example, thinks signatures are terrible. Like he's like, you can just put a land in your deck instead. So you know, he wouldn't be taking these signets. Whereas like, you know, maybe Nathan really has had good experience with Metamorph and Phantasmal Image because he took them, you know, pretty aggressively.
Conio, just a hater.
Cuneo's got his opinions. That's
yeah.
factual.
Yes, Cuneo has
It's
lots of
honestly probably
opinions.
And there's also, is it signature?
Yeah, well,
I think
that's
Nathan was
like the
considering
plan,
it
right?
There for a moment.
Canisters deck, yeah.
Well,
What in the world?
that is...
The Deserted Beach didn't wheel, but the Flooded Strand did? All right, well, you know what? Props to Nathan. That's great.
I don't even know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that at all.
Wow.
It's a genius.
I'm just excited to see how Canister's deck plays out. This is not one I've seen much of.
So, I'm with you on that one. It looks like...
I'm already out of words, guys. This is stressful.
Canister,
Yeah,
you know, he's
paid
a
off.
deck builder, and I mean that in
Yeah,
genuine.
I mean,
You know,
yeah,
he-
fucking talk about 4D
I
chess.
do.
Holy
and that's one of the things
shit,
I love about
dude.
him and his stream. Look, this may be something that he wanted to do coming into the event, or maybe he's got some practice with this style of deck. I have no idea.
Just like tap out
I've
blue
never
white.
drafted anything like that or
I
played
mean,
it.
I've won with decks like this, so I get it.
We'll see.
Like I've like
I think we might be
3-0'd,
doing just a normal Nathan's
you
got a
know,
little bit of deck
leagues with this
shown.
kind of shit. But
Let's
it's like,
do a little letter
okay,
grade. Nathan's deck.
hold on.
A through F.
So like, before they give the grades and shit, so like I've like drafted decks like this, and like, or like whenever you see posts on Twitter, right, from like somebody in the community, and they're like, oh, like, got a trophy with this like sick fucking blue white deck, and they're like, everything was like MVP was X card that. Oh, by the way, this LSV thing, I gotta get a snippet of this. This capture that. Like you see this like deck, right? And they're like, oh, MVP was like fucking whatever card that costs 8 mana or 6 mana or whatever. And like you see their deck and it's like MOCS Soul Ring. And I'm like, fuck off, dude. He's like it's like, oh, I like cast like my deck was insane. Like I had all these cool cards. Yeah, 7 mana cards always
Busted cards
MVP.
like Soul Ring, Mox Pearl, and Mana Drain. So you have 3 really strong cards.
Yeah.
You have good things to accelerate too.
Yep.
Good mana, good cards. Maybe just an A. I just go to flat A actually. I think this deck is very good.
Okay. We do have a final deck list here for Nathan that we can take a look at to see how he finally decided to build everything. And here you do see it. I see 7, 6, that's 13, 14, 15. We got 16 lands plus a Mox. That's 17 lands in quotes. Plus a Soul Ring is a Signet,
All right.
and that is already Signet is in there somewhere.
So what happens now?
Hullbreaker
Do we see
4
any more
on top
drafts?
end, Palace Jailer. I'm just looking for cards that maybe didn't make the deck that might come as a bit of a...
To be trying to go off with unfair spell decks.
So they played
you know,
Batter
something
Skull?
like a Tinker could be a problem if, depending on what they take.
All right,
But
this
you-
so this
a lot
deck
of
3-0ing is like it's got to be
acceleration
about
cards.
like the draws and stuff,
I
right?
mean,
If you don't-
Oh, these are just modern decks. Wow, this music, huh?
The opponent is one Tommy Ashton, whose Magic Online account is 19 years old. It is a very old one, but it is a good one. Green decks, I know that you were...
So Tommy Ashton's deck. He's just green. Splashing for Archon of Valor's Reach, a Restoration Angel, Ephemerate. What are you ephemerating? Oh, you have Ephemerate, Eternal Witness, Thragtusk. Yeah, these are the decks I never win with.
You were articulating on this one a little bit during the draft, but you didn't get to complete your thought. How do you feel about
Channel.
green decks in the Vintage Cube?
Don't
I
like
found them to be a little behind a lot of the other decks that are in the format. When you have stuff like Channel and the potential for broken draws, Rafello is also really
Yeah.
important.
Andy.
Then
Wow, yeah, the
you can
7
definitely
mana
pick up some
card.
good wins with
Every
green
time I
decks,
cast it,
but
it wins the
they can
game.
Be a little bit.
That's so
you
good.
know, the typical green ramp deck, I think, often lands in the like not quite fast enough, not quite powerful enough category.
I generally feel
Yeah.
that way. With you, it's going to come down. It'll bounce the Hex Drinker. Hex Drinker will be replayed. 2 more counters. are
Just
being
skip
placed on
around
it.
here.
Now it's 6 mana into Hex Drinker. And now Nathan can really start to get these Planeswalkers established if that's the route that he wants to go. And he will go to Gideon.
This is just working out so perfectly for Nathan. He's gonna get to make a knight to block the Hex Drinker, and then if Tommy commits anything else to the board, you know, next turn you get to go, is it Signet plus Damn if you draw a land, or just maybe play Gideon Jura, and just the combo of 3 Planeswalkers plus a Wrath is really strong.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot. So Hex Drinker is level 2 now. It's a 4/4. You see Ashton's start is a mediocre one for what his deck is certainly capable of, and this is the kind of thing that Nathan is not unhappy to play against. So
Sanderson's a good player too.
Hex Drinker's going to get even closer to level 3. There's the island.
Now we can just play Gideon and
Just
minus
play
2
Gideon and minus and kill
Hex
it,
Drinker.
and then they're just dead
Is that-
because they're
is that
just
good?
a green deck playing against 3
Trying to see
Planeswalkers.
What haste options are on the side of Tommy Ashton
Playing
here.
a cube
And,
today.
Twisted Beast is a fun-
I wasn't planning on it. I was
some-
planning on the stream
some
just
good
being
work in
like
matchup with all these
this.
Planeswalkers, but still
talking about
just
shit.
getting to do this and then tick up to Fairy and then tick up Gideon and just really run away with this game.
From Santa Claus, Gideon's going to attack for 5. Other Gideon took care of that Hex Drinker. There's a Razor Verge Thicket. The follow-up here for Ashton is just going to be a main phase restoration. It has the main phase because it's a
Is there still competitive
That's
Magic for
what's
us
gonna
mortals?
balances
There
the
will
draw.
be.
Damn in the holsters.
There will be. We're
This
gonna
is a activation to further solidify
get some
the
competitive
advantage.
Magic. I think this year.
Nathan is,
Maybe like by the end of
if
the
there was an
year.
advantage bar on this broadcast, it would be advantage Nathan.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, by so
By
much.
like a wide fucking margin
Like,
here.
The only thing that
Wrath,
really I could see going wrong for
Attack
Nathan at
for
this point
10.
is if Tommy.
and- yeah.
Well, actually, I was going to say was sitting on channel Emrakul, or sitting on channel or Emrakul and wanted to draw the second piece, but the double Gideon attack cuts that off as well. So pretty.
Why
pretty
can't we
simple
see
game one.
Tommy's
Exactly
hand?
how Nathan drew it up.
Yeah, Planeswalkers continue to be powerful, folks. And you saw that there with Teferi and Gideon's plural taking it down. So Nathan Stoyer very quickly up a game here over
Yeah.
Tommy Ashton. And we will see if these players are going to
Just
change
Tommy
things
just
up.
like
Looks like
has
we're gonna
is
get a
like
good one
de-
in.
like just can't
we've got
stream his shit
Tommy's deck actually on the left.
because it doesn't matter.
He's
Kappa.
going to do some sideboarding here. That we looks like
And I'm really packing. I've been doing 3.5k MMR on SPB for way too long to make
Nathan's going
March.
to bring in his Parallax Wave.
Yeah, dude, just grind, man.
Disenchant's going to bite the dust.
Just grind. This is actually a hard patch.
Doesn't look
So
like much more
I wish you
out
all the
of
luck. I know you'll do it, man.
Yeah,
Just
Disenchant
stick with
doesn't-
it.
Doesn't look too strong against
And
the
like
mono green deck that
and like
Tommy's brought to the table
my
here.
only suggestion. Oh, take care, Zoe. Dude, thanks for hanging out today, man. I really
Nathan's
appreciate
gonna do
it.
Kind of the once over here.
My
That's
only
kind of low
suggestion
chance,
on
so
like
that's
grinding
fine here.
SPB is like,
No rush. Take your time.
for me,
Figure out exactly
there
what you
can't
want.
always comes a point where like
Sideboarding process,
I'm
you
just-
have to think about
I
it.
like cross over into like
But
this
is a
other
less than
mind state
ideal
where if I
parameter
keep
for
playing,
action.
I'm just spewing MMR.
Speaking honestly, Nathan's
Like
got
I'm just
a
like
couple
not
of
making
against
good
it.
decisions
It's not
anymore.
channel plus.
So I would say like
Well,
find a
it's gonna be
point
tougher time.
at which like you just get up and just stop playing or just get up and walk away
That's
and just
really what
relax.
he's hanging his hat on here. I don't think Tommy has too many.
Like don't
other
push
chances.
yourself
Look
to
at this
play
draw.
too much.
Yeah.
Turn 1 Soul Ring, turn 2 could play just turn 2 Palace Jailer, or Trinket Mage for a Mox Pearl. Either one of those is just a fantastic start.
Is bribery good against him?
Yeah, bribery getting that Emrakul or the Ulamog. Yeah,
What else do I need to say right
not
now?
Here's
bad,
Gideon
not bad at
again.
all.
So here is Soul Ring. Well, Forest Channel is always an out. There's
Come on.
Prismatic Vista.
Give me a
sacrifice
channel.
that. This is Raphaelos.
That's going directly to jail.
Yeah,
Do not pass go.
straight to jail. Kill that, draw a card, have a good day. Jeez.
Yeah, it's like kill that, draw a card, but also draw a card every turn because it's not
That's
like
right.
no, it's not like Tommy's getting back.
Wow,
the
Palace
card
Jailer's
too.
so good.
Let's see what this is. Oh, Eternal Witness. That's gonna get back a land. Sure. Oh, Nathan drew a mana drain in the intro. That's fun.
Now he gets to play
Oh,
Teferi.
Teferi and-
for manager.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, he's just gonna go straight for just go right.
Just go straight for the hammer with bribery.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to know what I think about this format
the
being
world
played at a
is
competitive
always
level?
right.
I don't think
Everyone
this
wants
format
to-
should be
there's
played
no
at a
wrong way to
competitive
use
level.
these, that's for sure.
Um,
Bribery, look at it. At least
all right.
Ulamog, it
This
looks
isn't
like.
the most interesting turn here. CY bribery, whatever the fuck else you wanted, yeah. I don't think this should be played at a competitive level. I think that like, okay, so I'm not gonna get too much into this unless you want me to, but Matt, the Vintage Cube is more of like, is such an institution in Magic now. It's like such a Miles, calm down. Go to horny jail. It's such a it's like a product, right? It's like a brand. Like when people think of cube with a capital C, this is the cube they think of. And like there's a really good reason for that. Most of us that have built cubes in the last 10, 12 years, myself included, have looked at this cube and its developments as a resource for designing our own cubes. This is the cube that most people look at as the cube. And like, you know what? It is and it isn't, Andy. Because like, it is in that it gets people. It's like, it gets people into the format, and then like, if they want to like learn more about Cube, they learn that like this is not like the Cube that they should be looking to like build their own environment. It's just like, it's the starting point. It's the big starting point. It's the Hollywood, you know, pop culture, shiny, glossy, tier 0, like, cube for everybody. It's the cube for everybody, but also it's not built to be competitive. It's built to be an environment that is high variance, has swingy plays, and gets you to pay an entrance fee. And that's okay. That's totally cool. But like, to turn this into a competitive thing, I feel like I don't feel great about that. I think you can do a lot better. But it advertises Cube and it advertises Magic Online and like advertises whatever Cube is to people in a way that nothing else does. So like, I have a complicated relationship with it. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then someone goes, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, that's Cube. Welcome to Cube, where you can get Soul Ring Bribery in your green ramp deck. Yeah. Yeah. Teach people that if it's imbalanced and some card choices are very wonky, it's still fun to play, but I doubt this is what people learn from it. I think people just like engage with it. However, like there's a much the amount of people like Andy, like you, like me, like everybody else here, Crackshot, Wombat, everyone that's interested in Cube that like becomes enamored by Cube and builds their own Cube and like gets interested in game design or just has a play group and they want to curate the experience better for their play group. Whatever, however you evolve, a lot of people evolve from this, and that's cool. Like, let this be a springboard. Should it be competitive? Probably not, but it's Magic Online Championship Series, so this is the Cube that they choose because it is the institution. It is the most biggest, most successful customer-facing Cube. So that's it. Fuck the Pauper Cube, man. They need to do a better job with Pauper Cubes. Because it's just Muldrifter Tribal.
Maybe Emerald's in the deck. We'll find out soon enough. I'm a little surprised.
Anyway, that's enough. If you want to have me talk a little bit more about it, I will. But
by the way, draw a card from Palace.
Like, it's a complex relationship to me. This game's over.
Uh-oh. I can only imagine.
Nice.
Whatever this is. 4 mana. Oh yeah.
Yeah, questing beasts.
Nathan's gonna win this match.
Sure.
2 games to 0. Shellac.
Wow, I guess bribery's broken.
Whatever you want to call it, that's exactly what it was, and this is the exact thing that Nathan wanted to play.
Yeah, that's it.
Luis, perhaps we'll have your camera. Am I muted? I might be muted. I don't even know anymore. Okay, great. Okay.
God bless Cedric Phillips, man. He's such a treasure.
I would say about that. So, I know we'll have another match here, ideally in just a moment. My goodness, what a
wonderfully opinionated.
Oh yeah, that was
competitive.
That was just
invested.
landslide. I mean, that really shows off the power of Soul Ring. It was like.
Thank you, Luis.
He even took 2 extra turns. He played a 4-drop on turn 2 and a 5-drop on turn 3.
Yes.
And then that was it.
That was it. That's the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to see the power of all those cards, right? Bribery busted, Pal Shaler busted, Soul Ring busted.
No,
I mean,
Soul Ring
has
busted.
Very, very, very few bad cards in it, and his mana is good, and these are the kind of decks he's been playing against. Because again, as we mentioned after his draft, there's really no spell deck. So now here's a fun one. Peter Goglowski, Canister, as he is so affectionately known, is drafted a weird one. Now, Ards, Duretti's in here.
I just want to look at his final list. This is so disjointed. I mean, he's got powerful starts. He took all the welder shit out. Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Just realized it wasn't like really doing much.
In here, there's an Animate Dead. Nothing too crazy to Animate Dead on.
Chaos MOCS would be fucking sweet.
From the opponent's graveyard, and also Ragman here too. So, what's your take on this?
Alright,
a fairly consistent hand because, you know, with 4 tutors in your deck.
Alright, so blue-black. Rob Steiner's playing like probably Reanimator. And this is not like
gonna be
just
fairly consistent
black
from
red
what it looks
aggro. Oh, so I talked to
These players will begin here in just a moment.
one of
Full.
the trophy
Second
leaders
massive round,
this
number
morning
one.
on
Senator
Twitter,
Phillips,
and
the
I gotta
West
follow up
African
with them, but they said that they had the most success.
Season 3 Magic Online Champion Showcase.
One
Harmony
land Eidolon
had a
Bloodghast.
integral role
Yeah.
inside of Wizards of the Coast when it comes to cultivating the vintage.
I
Cube.
mean,
Joining us as well.
Faithless Looting in the graveyard, right? Faithless
Have a lot of
Looting
fun
that.
today as we cover more rounds of Vintage Cube and Modern. Eventually, someone's walking out of here. One of these 8 players is walking out of here with $20,000, an invite to the next Magic Arena Set Championship.
So Canister actually molded a hand.
Well, that one's worse.
And then
Canister
into
mold a
another
5 with 2 playable hands.
hand. Okay.
Well,
All right.
Can't mulligan this one.
No. This one might be the best of them.
Land,
Turn to Eidolon is
land,
something.
Sure. I
Eidolon,
think we're sending back what Fury and GT.
Jite.
No, looks like Fury and Croxa. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh no, it's
Good luck,
well,
Canister.
never mind.
Mold a 4. Well, Mount Eidolon GT. Let's see how this goes.
Fingers crossed.
your opponent's gonna
Well, there's the
go
draw, so
Vamp
that'll be the
for
play for Steiner, so we'll head back over.
Exhume or something.
Too good, Glovesky.
To see is if he casts a Vampiric Tutor in response to Eidolon.
Of course he is.
Sure.
I guess with a Frantic Search and a Jace to discard and a Battle Ball, you could just get your Necromancy and kind of set up for a turn 3 Battle Ball. Seems like a pretty
No, Luis is having terrible connection issues.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
It does seem reasonable though. Yes, and the Necromancy was the
Yo,
choice.
guy, these commentators, I feel their
So,
frustration
turn
with the
2 Jace,
disconnects.
turn 2, obviously.
When I was doing that commentary, we disconnected
Yeah,
like
Faithless
5
Looting is the
times.
draw.
It's just like, after a certain point, it's just like, alright, whatever.
Good, just looting now. I don't know exactly what you're looting for, but
way to
Got
kill
nothing else
Jace,
going on.
not knowing
Sure.
that Frantic Search is the backup. Faithless Looting on a Mold of 4, really not where you want to be.
Not where you
no,
want to
not
be.
so much. Not so much.
Not
Card's
so
incredibly
much.
powerful, but less so when you have less cards to work with. So it looks like Murderous Rider.
Did they get to pick their backgrounds? Because,
and
like,
Mountain will bite the dust.
does
Eidolon's
Glogowski
gonna
really
pull it
like
in.
Blood Moon that much?
Steiner will fall down to 14.
Come on, block, you won't.
It's going to keep GT plus Verdant and hope GT's enough, but I don't see that happening versus Mir.
Doing a little sideboarding here.
I'm guessing that they just, like, put
Should go
Battle
for-
Ball into
for-
play.
Doing a little sideboarding.
A way to kill Battle
Yeah,
Ball.
they
which
just
I don't
put
think
Battle
have
Ball
very
into
many of, like Kolagon's command. Like that could be pretty big.
Okay.
Braids. If you open on Ragavan Braids, that
You've got Sword with the plan to equip it next turn.
Ooh, they had the
You've got
turn one-
Vortex route.
Ragavan.
so. I
And then they went
Sword
turn
is
one
the
Mana Bolt.
that I'm the least likely to want,
Just Kolagon's command.
just because if you play Sword this turn, you're also saying I'm not going to play any of these cards next turn, and I'd rather just play 2 of these strong cards
What?
than to play Sword. I like this.
All right. Well, let's see how broke we can go. What's the draw? Jin gets access.
Oh, this K command is going
Yeah,
to be
now
devastating.
this K command is a
Okay, whatever.
right
So,
now.
yeah, you get the ultimate fucking K
Draw.
command here.
There's
Also,
Swamp.
Lelia makes it so you hit your land drop pretty easily.
Yep. There's Numazawa's Jite. Not so much for this particular game.
Nah, I'm pretty into using K command on the 2 permanents that,
Yeah.
that Robert has.
Yeah. let's set them
I like
back
it.
to
Let's
the
blow these
Stone
bad
Age.
boys up.
Waiting on the K command was Chef's Kiss.
Now strip mine.
People
You're
love
not gonna
mana.
party.
And
See what the draw
without
says.
that mana vault, I mean, this game's as lopsided as the first one.
Yep.
If Robert had blue mana and could go top deck Frantic Search, that'd be one thing. Oh, Nashi, Moonsage's Scion. You could ninja that in and see if you can spike something extremely large.
I played this in
Mountain is
Nashi
the
and
reveal.
Rich Man's Fixing.
Down to
I
7.
mean, Rich Man's Ramp.
Looks like we might just keep it very simple, which is just play the land, play the
Vortex. Good night.
bring it down to 5, kill you with
Yeah,
an instant
you're dead here.
Pretty
Maybe that
reasonable.
ninja. maybe
Just
that
play
ninja
the
shows up
sword
in that
too,
game.
or
Hey,
play the
this is
Nashi.
Power of Ragavan. Here it is on display.
Meanwhile, Robert's hand is 4 cards, 4 creatures that cost 7 or more. All right.
Well, maybe we'll get a back
Yo,
and forth.
Andy,
Game
you
number
were
3.
not fucking kidding me, dude. These games are
I'm
like
just, Nathan Stewart
so
reading them. I wanna watch more of that
uninteresting.
blue
Yeah, that could be like, jeez. Okay, it looks like Braids and Woe Strider are coming in. Now, what's coming out is anybody's.
They're
I don't know
so
the
bad.
draw strategy, but this Croaks has got to be out. Yeah,
Like I'm barely
yeah.
paying attention
Focus on
because
the
I'm like,
Croaks
yep,
and
of
Oh, right, I
course,
can't cast
of
this.
course, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. The draft. I mean, that's the content. Is the draft? These games are like.
I know Braids has dabbled. It was gonna come in last game, then it ran to the bench.
Ooh, a little Discord open.
Looks like it may stay in this game to ready.
It's checking the lanes right. That's how they do open deck lists.
Maybe. I mean,
That's
it just
awesome.
it just got moved forward.
Okay. Here we go.
So nothing of note. Just gonna pass the turn back.
Got strip mine.
Canister's looking for a red source, folks. Not quite.
Not that one.
Well, at least now with that Sword of Fire and Ice, any land he draws next turn could be pretty good.
True.
And Robert still hasn't drawn any gas, but with that Mana Vault in play, like, look, now he can just Vampiric Tutor the Battlesphere or Jin Gitaxias and just play it.
Yeah.
That just kind of takes care of things, right? Now, unless a red source does show up, which it doesn't, it's just a copy of Murderous Rider.
Wah,
Card
wah,
like
wah.
already established.
To get back his Battle Ball.
Yeah, poor assumption. Wait, you're not attacking with the tarp? Oh no! If they're not attacking with the
Oh, I
target,
guess he killed the Battle Ball with Murderous Rider, so that's something.
Oh, yeah.
And then here comes Makeshift Mannequin.
I think quite a bit too late. It's not even clear if all canister stuff together.
Honestly, and also
would
like
beat
instant
Battle Ball
speed
into a
is just
second
like,
Battle Ball,
yeah,
effectively.
it plays around the
But
Duretti.
The multiple turn delays.
animate that, right?
No, he's gonna go for it.
Okay, fine, I'll stop.
The problem is if Robert has Makeshift Mannequin in hand, you can't.
Oh
win.
no!
So you kind of got to play as if you.
Oh
you know, I'm sure you're
no!
clear
That
with
was
the,
actually
not
pretty
playing around
rough.
that,
So
they
they're
can't
gonna
get around no matter
play.
what.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, only 15 years of that.
They had to attack with
So,
the fucking
this is that.
3/3.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is
Yeah.
one of the bigger blowouts I've ever seen.
That's a
Yeah.
blowout.
The
Yeah.
Battle Ball next turn is gonna attack for like 20 damage.
Oh, that's it. Just a clean 20. Okay, not bad, not bad. Mana Vault trigger. Draw an island.
Like
Take it
just
like
like
that.
one shot. Yeah.
Because boy, does he have a very nice Azorius deck, and we got to watch him draw.
Oh. Wow, this music is just something else. Okay, I can't.
Version of that deck. There are a lot of cards we haven't even talked about.
Oh,
No one
Carmen's
thinks
here.
about how strong Palace Jailer is in the context of Vintage Cube, but it just runs away with games by itself.
Yeah, this deck is I would say basically the
I'm
peak
gonna use the restroom,
representation
I'm
of
gonna keep this
archetype.
on.
You cannot ask for much more than
I'll
that.
be right back.
2 of the top 5 cards in the cube already with Soul Ring and a MOCS, and then a bunch of the other broken cards we mentioned, plus 4 different 3 different lands and an Azorius Signet to make sure that you can actually cast your double white, double blue spells on time. So really excited to see what Nathan does with this. Though he's got a formidable opponent coming up because he was actually cut off in blue thanks to Muhan Yu.
And this is someone who few less games of Vintage Cube under their belt, only 40 of them coming in, but did qualify for this on the back of leaderboard stats, which just communicates so much consistency across so many different formats. This is someone that you don't want to be sleeping on, even if the numbers aren't necessarily in their favor.
Well, I mean, opening MOCS Sapphire and taking 4 blue cards in a row is a good start as any to a Vintage Cube, and I'm kind of curious to see how Muhan Yu's deck ends up playing out, because he ended up like a blue-green deck that's potentially splashing for Kiki Jiki and Zealous Conscripts, but I don't know if he ultimately went down that route.
Yeah, looking over the deck list right now, the only thing I'm really seeing a splash for is Burst Lightning, which makes sense. You know, you got your Firebolt in there, you don't want to get run over by the aggro decks, but look at the top of this curve.
Yeah, just having not only Upheaval, but Primeval Titan, which is actually a really good combination. Uro, Kogla, a pretty funny recent addition that I've seen do some pretty good work. And then Hydroid Krasis alongside that acceleration you're always looking for in Sapphire, Sakura Tribe, Roots, Sylvan Caryatid. Lot of good options here, plus a bunch of counterspells. What are 5 main deck counterspells?
Miles! What is
That's a
up
pretty good
with
amount,
you
and especially
today?
effective against a deck like Nathan's.
Hey,
You like
end
my
up having
t-shirt, by the
decks that
way?
are more rampy, but rather than ramping, it feels like this deck is trying to use those counterspells you mentioned to sort of bridge the gap between these big, powerful sorcery speed cards and the earlier parts of the game. I'm really excited to see how this game ends up playing out.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I think,
Muhan- wait, what is
this gonna
Muhan's
be
shirt?
A lot of haymakers on both sides. Both of these decks. Yeah, this deck is, I would say, basically the peak representation of this archetype. You cannot ask for much more than that. With 2 of the top, 5 cards in the cube already, with Soul Ring and a MOCS. And personally, just play Sylvan Caryatid, but I also play with a little more recklessness than the average player.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. You got to play to win in these spots, but God, with all those main deck counterspells, Stoyer has got to just be kind of looking at this Time Raveler, hoping it resolves.
The Time Raveler also would go a long way in making sure Nathan hits his 3rd land drop,
Miles.
because currently doesn't have that, and using the -3 to draw a card
Miles.
would certainly help.
Right, you don't want to be
Answer
casting
me.
a Phyrexian Metamorph to copy a Azorius Signet.
Yeah, they're not typically the play you're walking into a match looking for.
Fuck you.
Yeah, and it looks like Yu's going to main phase 2. Really thinking about that, Miss Calic? But no, ends up leading into your play there with a Sylvan Carry added and a pass at the turn.
Yeah, I like this play a lot. And then,
You check
oh wow,
something
drawing
real quick.
Celestial Colonnade means that Nathan doesn't have to make the tough decision of do I -3 to Fairy on nothing in order to try to hit my land drop. In fact, he could play the Metamorph here, but against the counter spells that he knows Muhan's got, really valuable to get down this Time Raveler.
Yeah, completely agree with that. We see Stoyer do it and roll up to Teferi to keep that repulse in the bank.
Ooh, roll up the Teferi.
Oh man, I haven't heard anyone refer to it as Repulse in a long time, and I love that card.
Listen, it's just a classic. All right, you get into untap. Looking at the way to the navigate here. This is nice because now, well, it's not nice because there's a Teferi. It would have been nice if you had just gotten to play your Signet, hold up your miscalculation, and move on.
Teferi Time Raveler is a
Now
really,
you
really,
need to
really
try and
messed
make
up magic
something
card.
happen.
Yeah, people. I mean, it's
powerful
just a
second one,
messed
kinda
up
nice in a
magic
spot
card.
like this, where it's just a straight up dead card.
I
for
didn't-
stopping.
Andy, I didn't play with this
So
card for like a
it's
long
possible he
time.
wants to cycle
I
first to
basically
see if there's a
didn't
better
play with
play.
it until
Like,
like
maybe you'd rather see us.
I was just doing other
Either way,
things
now
that were
you're just
like
on to, like, all right, let's just play
equally
Primeval
as
Titan and hope this works plan.
as like frustrating to play against.
Maybe
Yeah,
Adrian
I-
may have something to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Oh, Lord,
when
what
you
a
have like a really
player
low
like
curve,
managing.
it's
As you mentioned, that's gonna
it's okay. It's
really
fine.
punish
Like
you
it
for
gets
leaning into all
mitigated
these
by the
six-man
power level of
sorceries.
everything else going on. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So
Unless you have
Nathan
Soul Ring, then you
chose
get to play turn
not
4
bounce
and
the
turn
Simic
2.
Signet, which would have, I think, been a pretty appealing play, instead opting to just tick up Teferi.
How much do you think that's influenced by the mana drain?
It's
Stoyer just
heavily
knows it'll
influenced by the
resolve
mana
and just wants to get to cast a free Batterskull next turn.
Yeah, I think that is certainly a big part of it. Like, who cares if if Muhan plays a Primeval Titan next turn? You're just going to mana drain it, and you could actually go nuts. You could play 2 Batterskulls if you wanted to.
I think that's a better use of Metamorph than a Signet, give or take.
Yeah, usually it seems a little stronger. Could also maybe play Gideon. I don't know. The world's kind of your oyster when you mana drain a 6-drop.
Yeah.
If you're a new spot, are you jamming Primeval
Like the
Titan,
only
or you
and
go
like
ahead
that's
and
why
set with Upheaval?
red and white
I don't
are
think you can cast
traditionally
Upheaval
so
when you already play the
good
land and you'll have no
is
mana
because
for
they
it.
can actually get under
I'm
this,
not feeling good about
this
the
kind of
situation.
shit.
It seems
They
pretty
also
clear
get
you're
under
gonna
the
if
Dirtle
not
next.
mana drain, at the very least Ventured. Because remember, Nathan didn't play a land next turn. He has 5 spells in hand guaranteed, and wasn't in a hurry to do anything. So you could lead on Time Warp as bait.
What a bait spell, right? That's just so strange to go, oh yeah, maybe just throw away your time.
Oh, they're
Stoyer
not
doesn't
draining
bite, he lets
the.
it resolve.
They just
I
let it
love
resolve because it
this.
doesn't matter because
Oh.
they're just like, I'll just manage you whatever you play next.
In this position, Time Warp was kind of an explore, right? He gets to play an extra card or an extra land draw card.
Yeah.
And now Muhan's in a position where he just has to play the Primeval Titan. It's not really a
Bye.
choice, and it is pretty clearly. Well, I would say pretty clearly going to get mana drain, but actually with
Or they're gonna
with
go,
casting
or they're gonna
Metamorph into
metamorph
Teferi,
it,
I could see Nathan taking
and then
some
mana
sort of
drain whatever they
gamble over-
cast.
or just casting Dam end of turn, and just
Yeah.
Oh
not worrying
yeah,
about,
I
Muhan
missed
putting
that.
extra lands into play.
Yeah,
You
that
could
makes
just cast
sense. You
Dam
know,
at the
he
end of
did
the
roll up
turn.
that Teferi last turn, so that means that this Dam is
Blech.
clear for takeoff, and I think that's what we're seeing happen. Wow.
They cut the red
The
1 drops,
discipline of
Miles.
these players.
You can't
Oh,
listen,
Island Click is a
Miles.
really nice
You can't
compliment here to the rest of the things that Nathan's got
let
going
you
on,
can't
because he's
counter
gonna be able to
spells
really decide how
or
he wants
let
to use
or
his
allow
mana drain here
people
with
to get
maximum
under
information.
the dirtle.
This is so
Okay,
much- this is
the
just
dirtle
why
must
still
be
see
preserved
Teferi
above
rolling.
all
Well, I was kinda
costs.
thinking maybe the Signet would get bounced to hit those lands.
Yeah, this is the first
Where
time
have
I
all
pretty
the
strongly feel you wanna
1-drops
bounce the Signet. I
gone?
did really love his play of not mana draining the Titan though. Just checking the deck list, making sure there wasn't some Shelldock Isle, wasteland action hidden in it, and just being like, all right, I'll wrath it, and you basically got a Kadama's reach out of the deal.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was a great play that a lot of players in that position might have gone the other way on, and that's why we see the players, especially Stoyer, making it to this stage.
Look, I like 1-drops. Okay, I like aggro. I enjoy aggro.
And Stoyer with the instep Vendilion click.
No one attacks a Goblin
Really
Welder
have up
crack
enough
shot.
to
Come
cover
on.
with mana drain.
All right,
Not a bad
Wombat.
idea
Dude, thanks
to-
for hanging out today,
to take it
man.
Anyway.
I really appreciate it.
And there's something, it's even worse when your opponent looks at your
Draw
hand and
land?
just keep it with click, right? It's one of those, like when they say top with Jace, it's very low dopamine situation.
Oh yeah, you're pretty demoralized at that point, and Nathan's still on 3 lands, but it kind of doesn't matter. He's got everything he needs. Oh, Burst Lightning, kind of an interesting option here.
Stoyer finding this Venser too, Trinket Mage with a Soul Ring and a MOCS that we know about in the deck.
At some
I'm
point,
glad
Nathan's
that
gonna draw more
Carmen
lands
is
than
doing
that.
this
He's got all the
commentary.
cards he needs to win the game, so
They
not
need
too
to do
concerned there.
more.
In
Like they
order
need to.
for
Like
you
they're
win this game,
they're
you
such
still need
a
to draw
champion
5
for
spells
for
in
the
a row or
cube
something, 4 spells
community.
in a row, and even that might not necessarily do it, depending on how these next couple turns play out.
Yeah, this is the spot where you really cannot waste any more draw steps. With all the gas that Stoyer's drawn, it feels like you's already 3, 4, 5 draw steps behind, given that Mana Drain and Venser are also just sitting there.
I mean, if you're Muhan, you're just what else are you doing? Like,
All right, casting this Kogla, or at least
you
looking
can't
at
end
both
step burst
mana,
lightning the
Signet,
Teferi,
going through those
so
motions.
Just another coggle in the machine here.
How dare you?
Oh, look at this. Nathan's still choosing not to mana drain. Just like, oh, I'll Venser it to make sure you play it next turn. And then if this way, if he draws a land, he can play Trinket Mage and still have mana drain up.
I absolutely love this. This also
LSV
lets
is too
Stoyer
good?
apply
He's
pressure
very good at
to
Magic,
getting
yeah.
Closer to over. A lot of these cards like Venser aren't actually hard counters.
One of the
They
best.
just are by
Played against him in a
so getting
GP
the
once
pseudo
and
walk out of it is so attractive.
crushed me. Oh, he's very good at commentary,
Take
yeah.
time has been dealing click though.
He's also very good at
You
Magic.
can't just sit here taking 5 a turn. Also, there's that Celestial Colonnade. At some point, that's just going to be activated on, when it, to end the game. Like that's what that card does.
LSG,
It sits there,
this game is
acts
not
as a
coming
nice
down
little
to
tap land that
Colonnade.
provides both your colors, and then later it's like, oh, you're at 8. All right, call
Surprise.
the attack, go.
Yep, exactly. And that's something that really separates a lot of the stronger blue Magic players from the others, is just knowing when to be able to pivot and turn that corner.
It's easy to pivot, Carmen, when you have Venser and Vendilion Click.
Alright, Burst Lightning comes down in that click comes down in that graveyard. Stoyer finding a Plains off the top.
Okay.
Yeah, now you get to leave up Island Colonnade and still play Trinket Mage
Yep.
if that's what you want to do.
It's your...
Oh, or get Mox Pearl and leave up.
Yeah, you
mana
get
drain
Mox
that way,
Pearl here
works,
then.
yeah.
I wonder if the line here is specifically trying not to telegraph the drain.
I will
I
say
mean, it
that,
doesn't matter, but
yeah, I will say though that if I'm you, I don't think that I would have guessed he would have mana drain after getting Venser, letting Primeval resolve and all that. Not that you can do much about it, but
This is like, if I could add a sound effect to that, it would be like the
6 mana coming as well.
when in Street
that's
Fighter
what,
when
6
like
plus everything on the
one of the
battlefield.
characters dies
Seriously, Teferi,
and they
you're
go
dominating off the top. Really can just do whatever you want here.
yeah, now you have
Really, the only card you could
fucking
lose to
infinite
position would
mana.
be something like Upheaval, but with Mox and Signet, you're pretty much insulated against that, and we know Upheaval's on the bottom of the library, so not really much that can realistically get Muhan Yu back into this game. Nathan is just up 6 cards on him, something along those lines.
Yeah, this is so tough. Looking at used list, I guess Hydroid Crisis could be a pretty absurd top deck. But
Hydroid
anything
Crisis would
short
be
of
strong.
that is just kind of incremental, and this is not. This is so far past the point where incremental shifts are going to get you back in the game.
Definitely.
Hey,
Mox
Mox
off the
Sapphire.
top, a little bit less cool on turn 9 than turn 1. You pass.
All right,
it.
Miles.
Yu is outnumbered.
Love you,
4-1
buddy.
when
I'll
it
see you
comes to
soon.
Planeswalkers plus players.
We'll play Magic soon, okay?
You're just making Stoyer go through the motions.
Well, given the Teferi Time Raveler shutting off any sort of shenanigans, Celestial Colonnade can deliver.
Hey, it did
the
come down as
final
Celestial
attack here.
Colonnade.
Yep, and that's going to be Stoyer making it to the red zone, sending us to game 2, picking up a win from Muhan Yu. One step closer. Every single match mattering in this event.
I will say, even though Cedric and I would have preferred to be taking lands over the Phantasmal Image Metamorph effects, this is a matchup where they are fantastic. A lot of good stuff to copy on the opposing side of the board.
Oh yeah, being able to just hit any of the green cards has just got to feel so good. Though admittedly, a Metamorph Kogla at a disadvantage in the Kogla mirror.
Kind of making you feel the history of the Vintage Cube. It's still very, very good. It's just a fantastic brew overall.
And look at this, Jataxium Probe coming down, so now Stoyer knows to play around this miscalculation, play around this Force of Negation.
I actually don't think it would be unreasonable for
I would
you to
miscalculate that.
the Taxian.
Yeah, I would miscalculate the shit
sure,
out of that.
sure. Then after that, you get to have your Force of Negation in cancel mode anyway. I can see that.
Like, if it resolves the miscalculation, you have to kind of cycle it because it's almost dead.
Yeah.
You don't really want miscalculation face up. And then knowing that there's a force
Okay, so
negation
they are
coming is pretty impactful
miscalculated.
as well.
That's
So
good.
I like this play.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
this play
no,
too.
this is great, and this is exactly the high level stuff that we would expect of these players.
Oh, okay.
We're looking pretty nice with the fetch land and a little bit of interaction.
Yeah, we see a ton of ways for the graveyard to end up getting filled over the course of a game. You basically tanking on whether or not you want to run out this Uro, hold up the Force of Negation. Where do you fall on that?
I generally am just in the like you gotta cast your spells mode. Like
No, it's not
I
dead.
probably just play the Uro.
I like denying them the information. I don't think that like my decision to miscalc there would have been based off of like miscalc not
Sure,
being
that totally makes sense to me.
not being good
And here
anymore.
comes
It would just be
Uro
like
saying if you got it, you got it. So those conscripts come after anyway, so maybe it'll be fine. Resolves, Dreamroot Cascade hitting the battlefield, Uro hitting the graveyard.
I think it's just like I want to deny them the card and the information.
Yeah, Zealous Conscripts is kind of interesting. So
they're gonna get Teferi down
you
again.
Could, like, play Conscript, steal Teferi, bounce the Conscripts. A little weird sort of recursion there, but
Yeah.
unfortunately for one, there's just no option to do that. It's just land go with a Force Negation that doesn't do anything, and an Uro that's well.
They just flooded the fuck out.
The one downside is this feeds Uro. Uro at this point is going to have all the action he needs to come back.
Once there's a Teferi Time Raveler in the battlefield. And that card does kind of line up well against Uro.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I would say most Cube games don't give you the fuel to bring Uro back more than once, unless the game goes really long.
Yeah, and with his Murktide Regent in Stoyer's hand, whew, anyone playing Modern these days knows how fast that one turns things around.
Forward, getting more cards, more resources, maybe another land into play, and then trying to set up maybe a double spell turn or something along those lines.
Yeah,
But
all of that makes sense to me, right? Do you want to get your Wolf token from Garruk Relentless bounced?
Yeah, I mean, your point earlier though about Teferi bouncing Uro is a pretty good one. So I don't mind playing a Garruk here, but at this point you just get to go Bribery for Primeval Titan, and then the game is extremely over once Nathan starts drawing, like basically putting tons of lands into play and then having Factor Fiction to gas up afterwards.
Yep, and here comes that Garruk, that Wolf token, that in-step Bribery.
Instant speed bribery.
So
like the coolest thing. This is actually like kind of sweet. The best Teferi one I ever saw was like the instant speed thing.
I think you
was
it basically gives you the lands.
It was GP.
I mean, currently he's got 3 expensive.
It was GP Providence. War of the Spark. It was a team GP. And me and Tommy and Gabe were a team together. And we practiced a lot. Our pool was mid. I think we probably just misbuilt it or whatever. But it was like below average. And I think it was in the GP. It was either in the GP or it was like in one of the prep ones. I think it was in the GP. We had Teferi in Gabe's deck because he was playing like white-black, splashing for Teferi. And then we had Command the Dreadhorde, and Gabe got to cast Command the Dreadhorde at instant speed in response to our opponent attacking, and reanimated the everyone's graveyards full of creatures and blew them out, like plague winded them. That was freaking sweet.
Probably can't do that.
Look someone in the face and do it, you know?
To kind of make use of all his cards.
Oh, wow. Okay, but on the other side of things, Stoyer did take Island as a significant Vendilion Click, just whatever one has 3 cards, I guess.
Yeah, and, you know, Muhan did really sell, like, oh, Vendilion Click's a huge threat, which could have been a good bit of, theatrics.
That's best. I think that's cool. I don't know. Listen, I know I've seen the way you handle a vampire token in your days, so I know
I got
you're
nothing
one for
against it.
theatrics too.
Wow, they actually got the big
Murktide
Murktide.
Another great new addition, and it's coming down here as an 8/8, leaving up enough mana for.
How many red sources does Muhan have? It just seems so
the amount of
awkward.
turns, the good news for Muhan, the amount of turns he's gonna have to play from this position have diminished substantially. He's not gonna have to go through this too much longer.
Yeah, unfortunately, Wall of Roots is that where Emrakul's hiding on Innistrad?
From Nathan's perspective, that's how he wants all the matches to play out. He just like plays a Time Raveler, sits there with a bunch of counters, and then just casts 5 mana spells that win the game, and does that until the opponent is out of resources or time, whichever comes first.
Yeah, and it looks like it's working out for him so far. A lot of the blue-white stuff going on is just really strong on a base level, right? Nathan's lucky enough to have some of the 10s in Soul Ring and Mox Pearl and Mana Drain, but when all of your cards are 8s, it's hard to feel too bad about your chances.
Definitely, and that's part of why I think Nathan has such a strong deck, is that it's great when he draws his top couple cards, and still very good if he doesn't, so good place to be.
All right, well, with that, we've got even more Vintage Cube action coming up immediately. We have David Inglis versus Robert Peter Steiner, and you draw to 8 discard step things.
Note that this is game 3. Randy just confirmed.
So we have a Golos
Okay, well, how do you feel
twin
about
deck.
Pestermite and Splinter Twin in hand for game 3 with no red source?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd feel a little better if there were at least one red source on the horizon, but Golos can help there. Oh, interesting. So Robert choosing not to cast Demonic Tutor. Huh. Maybe trying to give himself another turn to decide what to tutor for.
I wonder if he's bluffing anything. He does have a Remand in his deck. Yeah, it is probably just waiting to see what ends up coming up here.
I still kind of like Frantic Search. Now that you have Living Death, you could potentially even just Living Death back in Inkwell and a Battlesphere.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a fine turn. I would go as far as to say.
Well, now that you're getting Pestermited on upkeep, I would have a hard time not casting Demonic Tutor here because you could probably look to be getting something going, even if it's just Frantic Search already is looking fairly strong here.
Steiner probably hoping for a Shriek Moth.
That would have been nice.
I guess you don't have that much to worry about without something like Cascade bluffs in the cube. All right, there's that
cool.
Frantic Search you mentioned.
Andy, you
Duress off
did
the
a
top for Tangrams.
Awkward because
little voting thing.
Duress effectively costs 4 mana if you cast it this turn because you're not doing anything else. And you've
I
got a
voted.
bounty you'd love to get down. But if you don't Duress here after your opponent tutored, like how often do you think they're just going to reanimate this turn and you could potentially lose to that on the spot?
Yeah, this is so brutal. I almost feel like you're priced into the duress. It's not like your islands are really doing that much anyway. And how valuable is a Gauntlet?
Twitter
against something as significant as an
fingers.
I guess one thing that could factor in is you do have this Assassin's Trophy. So at this point, you know, David is going to look and say like, okay, what's the worst thing? Is there something I can't get with Assassin's Trophy? The answer would be Inkwell. And yeah, Inkwell could be a little scary here.
Yeah, tough beats on that side. Inkwell, Leviathan, and Makeshift Mannequin? I'd call that one a combo, personally.
David Inglis, a Manamorphose away from winning the game on the spot. How back as it turns out.
Yeah, that's just true. Damn, maybe that means you really can only let the Inkwell attack once.
The good thing is you kind of have control over it because you're able to.
Checklist sheet here, how many different ways you can play with all of these cards. Golos entering the battlefield, Inglis getting.
I'm just skipping around, everybody.
And I think we're just a few steps away from the Splinter Twin sealing up game 1. Oh, time walk, close enough. Anybody?
Well, even better for Dangrams. This is game 3.
Oh, that's right, absolutely. That means we are about to see who our other finalist is going to be. Splinter Twin targets the Pestermite.
I skipped right towards Splinter Twin on Pestermite.
It's resolved, and Inglis is about to begin clicking.
So, my maneuver when I'm playing with a Pestermite Twin online is I'll put Splinter Twin on Pestermite, I'll tap it, I'll make it a copy, I'll untap it, and if they don't concede, I'll just go get a drink and let them look at this until they realize like, look, you can make me go through the motions, but if you're gonna do that, you gotta watch this for 5 minutes.
So the finals is 5-color Golos
That is
Splinter Twin
incredible.
versus
Luckily, we saw the
blue-white.
concession there.
I mean, this can only go one way, right?
Online Champions Showcase. Cedric Phillips back in the booth, joined once again by Luis Scott Vargas. And Luis, it is finals time of Arvin. Sawyer will draw a copy of Disenchant now. Venser will probably rumple in here in just a moment. There's your follow-up of the Soul Ring. And pass that turn back, leaving up double blue to potentially bluff what I believe is a mana drain, as opposed to leaving up the white source to be able to cast a Disenchant. Shelldock Isle will come down here for David. And it's a mighty fine time to do some bribing, I believe, Luis.
Oh, yeah,
This is bad.
hard to resist.
And there is a bribery. The Archon is the card you mentioned, and I think that's probably the card we'll see. It's worth thinking about briefly. As you see going through the deck here.
Looks like the Archon might be under one of the shell docks, whether the first or the second.
Okay. All
But
right. Well.
it's not like Grave Titan's not going to get the job done.
Yeah, Grave Titan's a totally fine consolation prize. Burgi, Pestermite, and a new ninja from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty are the other options here. Excuse me. And Sawyer's going to think things through, get a good look at the deck. More importantly, what he can do right now is, if he wants to take the time to do so, because we are talking about an open deck list tournament, what Sawyer's doing is he's got Inglis's deck list up. That's what he's clicking over to. And so what he's taking the time to do is figure out what cards are in your hand and what cards are potentially underneath your
Sorry, I'm getting a
That's
work
exactly what
text.
Sawyer's doing right now. He's getting as
Sorry,
much
guys.
information as he can with this bribery.
This is like high value
It's the sort
streaming,
of thing
right? Where I
if
just
you were
like
playing a
text
draft
people
on
while
Magic
things are
Online,
going on.
Probably wouldn't go super deep trying to figure all that out. But given that these players are playing for $20,000 and this match determines a finals invite versus not, I certainly don't begrudge Nathan taking a little bit of time to get a little bit of information here.
Maybe changes the calculus just a bit when there's $20,000 in a set championship invite on the line. So you do see Nathan, as I mentioned, just trying to figure out what are the contents of David's hand right now. And we can tell you, of course, is a Deceiver Exarch, a Golos, Tireless Pilgrim, the Gitrog Monster, Gonti, Lord of Luxury, Leovold, and Pia and Kira.
So they're debating between Grave Titan
some players in Vintage Cube, they love to draft the lands very highly. And late in Pack 2 and all of Pack 3, they can basically take any card they want to. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, they
the
get Grave
strategy
Titan.
try to employ during the draft.
Yeah, that is a strategy that you can go with. I've definitely had my fair share of, like, you know, end of Pack 1, I have 7 lands or whatever. You don't usually go with the combo Royal Sampler as the follow up to that, but hey, I like it.
No, you don't normally do that. Perhaps others do.
Deceiver Exarch can tap down Grave Titan for a turn. There's that. One interaction which may come up, probably not this game, but in a later game, is Gideon Jura. If you +2 the Gideon Jura,
This
it
is
actually
like-
shields you from Twin for a turn, because all of their, you know, Exarchs or Pestermites
I
don't have to attack Gideon. They just
Okay.
Okay, so Nathan 3-0's this. We obviously
they
know
go through
this
another
from
turn
now,
to play, like
right?
a Sorcery Speed Sweeper or something.
We're going to see Level join the fray. The draw here for Nathan is a Seachrome Coast.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Gideon Emblem here. Just
Yeah.
Immediately pop it at the -4 in order
Force the
to
block.
make it so all the zombies and the Venser can attack past the Leovold. Because that puts 16 damage even.
Soul
And,
Ring,
the
huh? What a
force
card,
Leovold
ladies
to
and
either
gentlemen.
chunk Grave Titan or trade for Venser.
Okay, got you. Well, we aren't going to see the emblem. We're just going to see an attack here. Grave Titan trigger, of course, 2 zombies, 1 to the battlefield.
Yeah, I guess it's just like...
Is going to get flattened by Grave Titan. 6 damage will come across. Angles will fall down to 8, facing lethal next turn.
I mean, what are you even drawing here? Nothing, right?
That Seachrome Coast, best turn back, still with double blue up. Not like you're going to play around Mana Drain or anything like that, and that is going to do it. So Nathan Steuer is going to win game number 1 here over David Inglis very easily. A turn, Julio's turn, given how his deck is constructed. It looks like things... That's right. There's always the modern portion of this event to look forward to.
Nathan's going to be casting a turn 2 Factor Fiction with Mana Drain still in hand, while Tangrams is like putting an Imperial Recruiter on.
Okay, so Nathan just draws Soul Ring both of the games. Okay. So... Cool. I think that's a good place to end with that. I don't know. I mean, like, the draft was kind of interesting to watch, but it was exciting, but the gameplay was like, Andy, you nailed it. Like, there was nothing. These games are so completely lopsided, especially like the amount of times that Nathan had a broken mana draw, like. You know, I mean, obviously, like, I thought going into this, because I knew Nathan 3-0'd, I was like, probably just, like, had broken openers a lot of the time with, like, fast mana. Gets Soul Ring, has it a bunch of times in the opening hand, and is just able to, like, capitalize with Teferi and instant speed creatures and stuff to just keep people off from casting their giant creatures and shit. And Bribery was good in the matchups, which isn't always the case either. I don't know, whenever I take Bribery, it just always ends up being completely underwhelming. Anyway, I think it's a good time to call that. And, yeah, it was messed up. Yes. I mean, that's like why people like the card so much, because it's just free wins. You just tap 5 mana, put the card on the stack, and then you're likely to win the game. Yeah. Just like, yeah, like you play the format and you know, like, you can gamble on Bribery being good, and like it's going to be good often enough, and that it'll do what you saw it do here, like in the average case, because like a lot of your opponents will be like, they'll just have something, and even like the mono white decks will have like Palace Jailer and Sun Titan or something, you know. So you always have like a reasonable target, except for like not always, but you generally have a reasonable target. It's not like Emrakul or Grave Titan and shit, but like it's, you know, it's fine. Fine targets. What was I gonna say? So that was cool. I had a pretty good turnout for this stream today because of it. And I wish I could just comment on this stuff more, because I think it's a lot of fun. And I guess next week you're gonna have to see me like actually talk about Cube and play Cube and stuff again. But this was a lot of fun. Kind of like going on the roller coaster with everybody. It's a good experience, and I'm glad I got to talk about playing paper. You know, I know Dan is like probably working or whatever, but like he was a really good host, and you know, I'm gonna try to put together a cube draft of my own soon, really soon, if I can help it. Probably can get like something going at Hex & Co. or something, which is a place in New York that just like takes Vax card. Like you need a Vax card to go sit down and play, and like it's pretty centrally located. What other thoughts do I have before I close today? I always come very unprepared for this kind of stuff. Next week. Let me see if I think I'm on for Monday next week. Okay. So next week, it's not going to be on Monday. I'm going to put up my schedule on Twitch. Next week, it's going to be Thursday. So you're not going to see me until March 10th. So I'll put that on my schedule. I don't know what the content's going to be yet, but I'll try to make it as interesting as this, or at least somewhat, maybe even 50% of it. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. And I'm going to go hang out with my dog and enjoy the rest of my Monday. All right. Should I raid anybody? I'm so bad at the raid thing. Can I raid from my app? I think I have to raid from dashboard. Let's raid somebody. Raid channel. Who do we got? Newmont? Spike? Yeah, dude, Andy, have a good Monday. Thanks for hanging out, man. Seriously. I love it. Thank you so much, man. All right, let's raid Newmont. Yeah. All right, guys. Later.